Talladega, Alabama, this is the Motor Racing Network. With the broadcast of the Talladega 500 NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National Stock Car Race. Co-hosts for today's broadcast are Jack Arute and Barney Hall.
Well, a good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're here in Talladega, Alabama for the 10th annual running of the Talladega 500. 9 races thus far, 9 different winners on this immaculately prepared 2.66-mile facility. My name is Jack Arute, and along with Barney Hall, Eli Gold, Bill Bowser, Mike Joy, and Joe Alloy in the garage area, and Winston Cup Grand National champion, former champion, Ned Jarrett, standing by on pit road. We're here today in the heartland of Alabama to bring you all the action of this Winston Cup Grand National event. A good crowd is on hand for the race. As we said before, 9 different winners, and this is only the 3rd race in history of Winston Cup Grand National Racing that can lay claim to that. 9 different winners in 9 different races. Should the 10th winner this afternoon be someone different than the previous 9, it will be the first time in NASCAR history that such a claim can be made. There's been plenty of action already here at Talladega, Alabama. We'll be covering a lot of that in the Goodyear World Racing Scoreboard later today. And, of course, we'll be giving you the starting lineup in a moment. The folks at Anheuser-Busch of St. Louis, brewers of famous Busch beer, hope you enjoy all the action here at Alabama International Motor Speedway today. There's been plenty already, with Cale Yarborough taking the pole in a blazing time of 192.917 miles per hour. For that great effort, Cale will go back to Timmonsville, South Carolina, where he and his crew can start enjoying their Busch beer fresh and frosty out of a home draft system, compliments of Anheuser-Busch. All season long, the fastest qualifier at every NASCAR championship race will receive a great prize from Busch. What's more, the driver who qualifies the fastest, the most times this season, will receive the Busch Beer Trophy and $10,000 in cold cash. So sit back with the great, smooth taste of Busch beer and root your favorite NASCAR driver on. Once again, our congratulations to Cale Yarborough, a man who drives like he believes in what he's doing. The senior senator from the state of Arizona, Barry Goldwater Sr., has just given the command trackside for the 41-car starting field to start their engines. And let's take a look at the starting lineup, and here's Barney Hall.
Starting in 41st position will be car number 40, D.K. Eldrick from Harrisburg, North Carolina, the Midwestern Farmline Chevrolet. 40th on the field, Steve Moore. He's from Carrollton, Georgia, in the Willard Moore Racing Chevrolet. Earl Canavan goes from 39th position. He's from Fort Johnson, New York, in the Pepsi Dodge. Marty Robbins, the great country and western singer from Nashville, Tennessee, is in 38th position in the Marty Robbins Racing Dodge. 37th on the field, one of the top rookie candidates for 1978, Roger Hamby of Ferguson, North Carolina, in the Hamby Ellis Chevrolet. 36th starter, Jimmy Means, a young driver from Huntsville, Alabama, the WIXC Radio Chevrolet. 35th on the field, another top rookie driver, Ronnie Thomas of Christiansburg, Virginia, in the Louis Smith Special Chevrolet. Dick May starts in 34th position in car number 19, the Belden Asphalt Chevrolet. Grant Adcox, a popular young driver from Chattanooga, Tennessee, is entrenched in 33rd position. He's in the Crystal Racing car. 32nd starter will be car 45, Baxter Price, Monroe, North Carolina, the Price Racing Chevrolet. 31st, Gary Myers from Walnut Cove, North Carolina, in the Spencer's Babywear Chevrolet, and the field begins to roll down pit road.
Starting 30th on the grid, Tom Gale, North Huntington, Pennsylvania, the Sonny King Honda Ford. The Samdell Dodge of Buddy Arrington of Martinsville, Virginia, will start 29th. On the outside of row 14, Al Holbert, Camel GT champion in 1977, coming to Winston Cup Grand National Racing in the Southland Industries Oldsmobile. Starting 27th, Dale Earnhardt, Kannapolis, North Carolina, the Cardinal Tractor Ford. Blackie Wangren, Bloomington, Minnesota, brings his Wangren Mercury in a 26th starting position. Starting 25th on the grid, he's got this 3rd engine in the Shoney's Oldsmobile. A disappointing qualifying time, but Dave Marcus of Wausau, Wisconsin, the 1976 Talladega 500 winner, starts 25th. 24th on the grid, Farrell Harris, Pikeville, Kentucky, the Autowise Chevrolet. The Bailey Excavating Chevrolet of J.D. McDuffie from Sanford, North Carolina, fills the inside of row number 12. Well, on the outside of row 11 is the 1972 upset winner of the Talladega 500 in the Al Rudd Auto Parts Buick. That'll be James Hilton. Bruce Hill, Union City, Georgia, puts the Bear Finder Oldsmobile in 21st starting position.
Your 20th starter on the field is Bobby Allison from Hueytown, Alabama. A heavy favorite here today, at least with the local fans anyway, in the Norris Industries Thunderbird. Young driver from Dawsonville, Georgia, Bill Elliott, starts in 19th position in the Dahlonega Ford Sales Mercury. Richard Childress, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the Kansas Jack Oldsmobile, goes from 18th starting spot. Ty Scott from Penn Argyl, Pennsylvania, and the Rust Hogs Oldsmobile starts 17th. 16th starter on the field, the great European road racer Claude Ballalina, who has really adapted to Winston Cup racing. He loves this racetrack. He's in the JMS Dodge. 15th starter, Dick Brooks, another winner here at Talladega. Brooks has high hopes today for a strong finish and even a victory. He'll be in the Truxmore Mercury. Neil Bonnet from Hueytown, Alabama, starts in 14th position in the Armor All Chevrolet. Frank Warren goes 13th. He's from Harrisburg, North Carolina, in the Native Tan Dodge.
The Kelly Girl Buick, this time for Janet Guthrie of New York City, New York, and Miami, Florida, starts 12th. 11th to number 88, Darrell Waltrip, Franklin, Tennessee, the Gatorade Chevrolet. Row 5 finds Skip Manning, Bogalusa, Louisiana, the Stratograph Buick, starting 10th. On the inside, the 1977 Talladega 500 winner, Donnie Allison, Hueytown, Alabama, the Hawaiian Tropic Oldsmobile. Clifton Cuckoo Marlin of Columbia, Tennessee, puts the Cunningham Kelly Chevrolet into 8th spot. Starting 7th, Ricky Rudd, Chesapeake, Virginia, the City Corp Chevrolet.
6th position, Richard Petty, in one of his strongest qualifying runs here at Talladega in a long time in the STP Dodge, and supposedly this is the last race this year at least for the Dodge for Richard Petty. We'll have to watch and see what he does today. He has good hopes of a strong finish. He's in 6th position. 5th is Lenny Pond from Chester, Virginia, in the WIN Incorporated Oldsmobile. In 4th spot, another gentleman who feels like he can do it all today is Buddy Baker, Charlotte, North Carolina, the MC Anderson Oldsmobile. David Pearson, another strong qualifying run for the Purelator car, and his best in about 3 years here at Talladega. He starts in 3rd position.
Starting in the front row, car number 72, the First National City Travelers Checks Oldsmobile for Ellerby, North Carolina's Benny Parsons. And on the pole, the same way he did it in 1978 in the May race, Cale Yarborough, Timmonsville, South Carolina, First National City Travelers Checks Oldsmobile, a blazing speed of 192.917 miles per hour. Cale, do you have to have a winning attitude? Do you have to work at it when you come to Talladega?
Well, I don't have to work at it. I have a winning attitude every race I go to. I never start a race, that I don't think that I got a chance of winning. I think when that time comes that I'll go to Lake on Sunday instead of to the racetrack.
He's not at a lake this afternoon, and they work down the long backstretch preparing for the drop of the green flag. As we said, 2.66 miles of racing asphalt here at the Talladega Speedway, known as Alabama International Motor Speedway. Gene Bartow, the 1973 NCAA Coach of the Year in basketball, standing by trackside with Chip Warren to drop the green flag. He's the honorary starter. The field has gone by turn number 2, where Eli Gold will be covering the action. They're directly in front of Bill Bowser at this time. He'll be covering the action at the end of the backstretch.
On the backstretch now, they're double wide coming down through turn number 3, and Mike Joy will take it from there.
Into the 33-degree banking, turns 3 and 4. Then out into the short chute, past our position up on top of the Aniston Grandstand. Then they go into the tri-oval area, 18-degree banking. Unlike Daytona, which is similarly shaped, the start-finish line is not there. It's halfway down the short chute leading to turn 1, and that's where broadcast control is located.
Ned Jarrett is standing by on pit road. Any late reports, Ned?
Everything seems to be set to go here, Jackie. There's literally thousands of dollars of tires and equipment here ready to service these cars when they come in. No telling how much talent might be involved if you tried to put a dollar figure on it. But they're all set knowing that pit stops are very important here at Talladega.
Well, a gigantic throng of people here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, the world's fastest, have come to their feet in anticipation of the starting green flag to be dropped on the field this time. They are about 300 yards from the start-finish line. A pair of Oldsmobiles on the front row. Chip Warren indicating to slow down a bit, and they drop the green flag. Race underway. Talladega 500. They sail down into the number 1 corner, and they are 3 wide back in the pack and heading for turn 1.
It's Cale Yarborough taking the low road. Benny Parsons going up high. He surges to the advantage. That's Buddy Baker close behind Benny Parsons. Down low in row number 2, it's David Pearson. They dive through turn number 2 down the 4,000-foot back straightaway on the inside. Now the outside, Benny Parsons. That's Buddy Baker running second. Cale Yarborough going third as they head down the backstretch.
Buddy Baker takes a move, doesn't make it. Cale Yarborough pulls out. Buddy Baker takes the lead going down into turn number 3. It's Baker, then Yarborough as they go to the turn.
That's been a favorite passing point here at Talladega as Cale Yarborough drafts underneath Benny Parsons. It'll be Buddy Baker heading out of turn number 4. Cale Yarborough, Benny Parsons, Richard Petty, David Pearson, then back to Skip Manning and Cuckoo Marlin as they head for the tri-oval.
They square off to see who will lead the first lap, and they are 3 wide in the tri-oval as they come to the line. It will be Cale Yarborough in front, Richard Petty second, Baker third, and Benny Parsons is fourth. They're back in turn 1.
They take the middle groove. Cale Yarborough leading the way, going way up high on the track, and spot number 5 is Benny Parsons. Back in the front, Cale Yarborough, then Richard Petty. It's David Pearson and Buddy Baker, door handle to door handle as Baker now assumes spot number 3. Down the back straightaway, it's still Yarborough, Richard Petty on his tail. They head to Bill Bowser.
Halfway down the straightaway, it's still car number 11, the Oldsmobile, going into turn number 3, the 33-degree banking. Yarborough pulls Petty on through, and Baker moves down into third on the draft.
Well, if the Dodge fans are going to have anything to cheer about, it'll be this afternoon. Richard Petty runs in the second slot right behind Cale Yarborough. They'll say the Dodge will work well in the draft here. Baker cuts to the inside as they hit for the tri-oval.
Buddy Baker trying to get back in the lead of that MC Anderson Oldsmobile, but it will Yarborough at the line. Baker is second, Petty is third, Pearson is fourth, Benny Parsons is fifth, Skip Manning is in sixth position, and 17 cars are in the lead draft. They're back in 1.
There seems to be no choice through the turn. Everybody picking their own groove. Right now, the middle groove for Cale Yarborough with Buddy Baker right on his tail. They exit turn number 2. It's a 2-car draft up front with Yarborough and Buddy Baker, and then close behind Richard Petty in the Dodge. They go down the back straightaway, long bunch, 17 cars.
Everybody in single file with Cale Yarborough. Buddy Baker moves up beyond Petty, so Baker's second, Petty's third, Pearson up into fourth as they go down into the 33 of the third.
Remember, Buddy Baker won the fastest 500-miler in history right here, and Baker runs second to nobody if he can help it. Yarborough on the high side, and Baker has another look on the bottom.
Baker takes the low road this time, and he's there. Buddy Baker by half a car length over Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough. Baker will lead this lap, but Cale goes after him. And Jackie Root, they said that you would see 12, 14, and 15-car drafts. There are 17 cars in that lead draft.
No question about it, Barney, and it's a contest for the lead as they go to turn number 2.
Buddy Baker handling well, really glued down low on the racetrack. He has the advantage, but now on the outside, Cale Yarborough accelerating. He whisks right by Buddy Baker, taking David Pearson with him.
Pearson moves on out in, and he comes up into second spot right behind Cale as Benny Parsons moves up into the third spot as he pulls into the draft. They now go single file in the maneuvering.
The Silver Fox, David Pearson, works up into the second spot. Baker gets drop-kicked all the way back to fifth position. That's what happens when you get out of the draft. Here at Talladega, there are 18 cars, single file, heading for the tri-oval.
They stack them up too deep, though, as they come to the stripe once again. It's Cale Yarborough in front. David Pearson planks himself in second. Darrell Waltrip goes to third. Benny Parsons downstairs in the fourth spot. The thundering herd here in the Talladega 500 is midway down the backstretch.
And leading them down comes Benny Parsons now as they are going into the third turn. Darrell Waltrip was the one who moved up in, and Waltrip takes on the lead as they go midway.
Pearson had the lead. He has dropped back to fourth. It's Darrell Waltrip with the Gatorade Chevrolet out in front. Buddy Baker's appropriated the second spot ahead of one of the first National City Travelers checks holds, that of Cale Yarborough. Then Pearson, Parsons, Petty, and Lenny Pond.
Barney, this draft is going at a speed of 198.923 miles per hour.
Well, there were predictions they would run 197-mile-an-hour laps, and that has materialized. At Alabama International Motor Speedway, they are stirring the air, and I mean like a tornado. They're up in turn 3.
Buddy Baker leads Darrell Waltrip's Gatorade Chevrolet. The Oldsmobile of Baker now leading that draft upwards of 22, 23 cars. A little bit of break in it as they go to Mike.
Baker and Waltrip have about a 2-car length advantage on Cale Yarborough. Then 2 car lengths back to David Pearson. Richard Petty, Benny Parsons tucked in a tight draft as they head for the line.
Some of the best racing in the world at Talladega, and those early laps are just phenomenal. Here they come. It will be Baker in front, Waltrip second, Cale is third, Pearson fourth, Petty fifth, Ricky Rudd sixth. Benny Parsons is 7th. Back in the 13th position is Skip Manning, and the race back there for 13th, 14th, 15th, and on back through about 21st position is just as hot as it is up front. They are back in turn 1.
Out of turn number 2 now, it's Buddy Baker with Darrell Waltrip on the tail, and Cale Yarborough, David Pearson, Richard Petty. It's quite a battle. Looking back in the pack, the only one seemingly with some handling problems, Dave Marcus. He's all over through turns 1 and 2.
Buddy Baker still leads that mammoth draft. Nobody pulls out. Nobody tries much passing except back about 10 cars.
Well, the front 4 have got a 5-car length advantage on 5th place Richard Petty. It's still Buddy Baker on the point. Waltrip, Yarborough, and Pearson trying to gain some ground on the 5th through 10th place cars without success.
Front 3, stack them 3 wide, back to the line, and it will be Cale Yarborough going after the lead, and again, Baker just shoves that MC Anderson Oldsmobile right back to the front, and Baker does not like to give up the lead, and neither does Cale Yarborough, and neither does Waltrip for that matter. Three of the hardest chargers in Winston Cup racing dueling for the lead.
It's still Buddy Baker leading the pack out of number 2. Darrell Waltrip takes a bit of a higher line, now tucks himself back in. Then still Yarborough, David Pearson, Richard Petty down the backstretch.
Single file, nobody moved out that time down the backstretch, except here comes Cale Yarborough out alongside car number 88, the Gatorade Chevy of Darrell Waltrip, and Yarborough tries it on Baker.
Yarborough put his nose right on the bottom of the racetrack entering turn 3, and it paid off. Yarborough's got the lead out of turn 4. Baker is second. Waltrip third. Pearson, Petty, and Parsons.
Well, Jackie, this throng has yet to sit down. They're still on their feet watching the duel for the lead. It will be Yarborough back to the stripe as they're single file this time. Baker maintaining second. And again, the third place car is Waltrip as these gentlemen feel each other out in the early laps of the race.
It's like a heavyweight championship fight, Barney, but it's for 188 laps. The field working turn 2 at this time, going down low at the tail end of the draft is one car trying to get by Ricky Rudd.
Using every inch of the racetrack, that's Lenny Pond trying to swing by Ricky Rudd. Pond and Rudder still door handle to door handle, midway down the 4,000-foot backstretch.
Baker putting a challenge on Cale Yarborough with the number Oldsmobile coming up alongside. Baker takes over the lead from Yarborough midway through the turn. Blackie Wendron is ready for the pits.
Baker on the bottom of the racetrack. Here comes Cale. They are side by side exiting 4, and Cale, the draft works with him. Darrell Waltrip right on his tail, going to try to overhaul Baker at the tri-oval.
It's a wedge 4 deep as they come to the line. It's Cale Yarborough on the point. Darrell Waltrip on the high side in second. Buddy Baker runs third. They go into the south end of the Speedway once again. Barney, you'd think it was the tail end of this race instead of the beginning.
Well, they always run in the early laps, Jackie, to feel each other out, to kind of see what the drivers have. A moment ago, there were 17 cars in the lead draft. They've chopped it down to 13 right now. And then there's about 8 or 10 cars in that second pack as they move up into turn number 3 in the vicinity of Bill Bowser.
And they're going to start lapping some slower cars as Darrell Waltrip moves down to the inside going into turn 3 to try and take Cale Yarborough, and it's Waltrip going on to the lead as they run into 3 slower cars.
Waltrip on the bottom of the racetrack. Cale is up high as they come into traffic. Traffic moving to the bottom of the racetrack. Waltrip threads the needle up near the wall. They are single file. Waltrip, Yarborough, Baker, Petty, and Pearson.
Here they come to the line, and traffic will become a factor. Already they're overlapping the tail end of the field, and Waltrip with the Gatorade car hangs on to the lead. Baker rides second. Cale is third. David Pearson is fourth. Back in fifth is Richard Petty. In sixth position right now is Benny Parsons. Seventh is Ricky Rudd's car as they move back into turn 1.
Out of challenge, here's Buddy Baker taking it down low. He's just a car length ahead of Darrell Waltrip and Cale Yarborough close behind. It's that order with Buddy Baker leading things down the back straightaway. The tail end of the pack now exiting turn number 2. Earl Canavan's number 01 automobile been giving him trouble every time through the turn, but he's been holding on nicely.
Buddy Baker takes him down to the 33-degree banking on the north side now.
And the race has stabilized just a bit. They're single file out of turn 4, but when they hit that tri-oval, that's when the battle begins, and they form up double file. That is Baker heading Darrell Waltrip and Cale.
Well, a multicolored choo-choo train heads back for the line. Baker's the engine, and right behind him comes Waltrip, chomping at the rear bumper, trying to get the lead back. And these two will not give an inch on a racetrack. And the third place car, Yarborough, well, if you follow Grand National Racing, you know what kind of a competitor he is. Baker by about 4 car lengths, maybe 5, and that's the biggest breathing room anybody has had this afternoon. They're in the backstretch.
They are moving through a good bit of race traffic now. The leaders move to the outside wall in front of Bill Bowser.
Buddy Baker now moving into about 4 or 5 slower cars, pulling that draft with him. He goes high down into the 33-degree banking on the north turn, and Baker has about a 4-car length lead over Darrell Waltrip's Gatorade Chevy.
Leaders single file, picking their way through race traffic. Buddy Baker on the point, carefully choosing his line. He stays up near the wall and runs the high side against lap traffic.
Hard to believe, Barney Hall, last time around 200.171 miles per hour on that lead draft.
That is phenomenal. There were about 5 drivers who predicted that they would run at least 197 miles an hour. They ran 198 on the first or second or third lap of the race, and now they are approaching speeds for the entire turn around this 2.66-mile facility of 200 miles an hour. Unbelievable racing. Waltrip up in front, but right now he's about to be challenged for the lead.
The lead challenge comes from Cale Yarborough in that first National City Traveler check holds number 11 as the Cale goes down to the inside. Last lane down before the apron. He takes the lead into the turn.
Benny Parson following suit. Parson goes by Pearson to run in the 5th spot. Cale will lead them out of turn 4. Waltrip is second. Baker, Petty, Parsons, Pearson, Lenny Pond, and Neil Bonnet.
Here they come back to the line. Yarborough is in front, but Right behind him comes the Gatorade car of Waltrip. He's going to try him on the outside as they go back into one, and those front 6 cars just keep switching back and forth, and here's Cale all the way to the bottom of the racetrack.
Cale glued down low, but it's Darrell Waltrip taking the high line. He has Buddy Baker along with him right on the tail. Exiting turn number 2, it's a battle. Darrell Waltrip, Buddy Baker in second, Yarborough third, Richard Petty fourth, and there goes Petty on a move going down low.
It's gleaming windshields, gleaming grills as Buddy Baker tries to make a move now on Darrell Waltrip, trying to get to the third lane, low on the track, and into the turn now. Buddy Baker again takes over in the 27 car.
At half, that front 12 is in the bottom lane of the racetrack. Baker took the lead. Petty gunning for third now against Waltrip. He is side by side with Yarborough as they come out of turn number 4.
Richard Petty really flexing the muscles of this STP Dodge, and will follow his progress throughout the afternoon. At the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Buddy Baker is the man to be reckoned with all of a sudden. He's lost the lead a couple of times, but every time that Waltrip or Yarborough has had it, he's come charging up through the pack to take it back. They're about to move up into turn 3 and 4 near Mike Joy.
Field is single filed in the 33-degree banking. It is Buddy Baker in the lead. Baker likes to run up front. He punishes the car. Likes to put it right out in the front of the race, and he comes out of turn 4 with the lead. Darrell Waltrip is in the second spot. Cale Yarborough is third. Benny Parsons fourth, and Richard Petty fifth.
Riding back in 6th position is David Pearson. Riding 7th right now is Neil Bonnet. 8th is Bobby Allison. 9th is Donnie Allison. 10th is Dick Brooks. And 11th right now would be Lenny Pond's car. That choo-choo train swings back into the south end of the track.
Behind Lenny Pond, that's Frank Warren's car. He's moving up through traffic, but back with the leaders. That's Cuckoo Marlin and Ricky Rudd running 12th and 13th on the race. Now down the back straightaway, it's a single-car train, a single file as they head to Bill Bowser. Still Buddy Baker with the advantage.
And it's nose to tail the front 4, Buddy Baker, Darrell Waltrip, and Cale Yarborough and David Pearson. Nose to tail as they go to Mike.
Well, the muscles have been flexed a bit. They're running single file. Running through this first period, coming up on the first pit stop, they're about halfway to that mark right now. Single file out of turn 4, but they really bump and shuffle when they hit that tri-oval.
Well, for the first time today, the race seems to have stabilized for the moment. That's the first time around everybody's kind of stayed in single file. David Pearson tucks the nose out of the Purelator car just for a second, then falls right back in line.
Barney, not only are they going at it at a 200-mile-per-hour clip, but with a 12-car choo-choo train like that and tinted windshields. They've got a lot of these dark windshields up front. Benny Parsons says it really creates a problem.
It makes you feel awfully uncomfortable because you can't see through their windshield. Normally, you look through their windshield and you can see if there's any trouble up ahead, and you can't see through those windshields. So then you just have to check the horizon for smoke and things like that. And once in a while down the straightaway, you do pull out just to verify that there is nothing in the racetrack that you're going to run over. And if several cars, like one car has them, it's bad. But if 4 or 5 have them and they're, side by side and what have you, you can't see anything.
Here comes Yarborough. He goes after the lead, and the crowd comes to their feet again. He's got it. At the stripe by half a car length, Cale Yarborough over Darrell Waltrip. They go back to 1.
Cale Yarborough goes down low. Darrell Waltrip thought about going a bit up high. Couldn't make a move there. Running third is Buddy Baker. Fourth, Benny Parsons. Then Richard Petty, Bobby Allison. Then Donnie Allison, Dick Brooks, along with Neil Bonnet and Lenny Pond. That's David Pearson now tucking himself in alongside Neil Bonnet near the end of that lead draft. They go down the back stretch.
200-mile-an-hour buses. Buddy Baker moves out alongside the Gatorade Chevrolet of Darrell Waltrip, then tucks it back in behind Darrell as they go mid-turn.
The man on the move is Bobby Allison. He started 20th, and now he's challenging Petty for the 5th spot. Allison on the bottom slips back up into the groove in 6th as they exit turn 4.
Well, there was some concern that car would not run here at Talladega. It's not as aerodynamic as many of the cars, but the draft made all the difference in the world. Yesterday and on Friday, after some of the qualifying was over, 5 and 6 cars, Jackie Root, were running over 195 miles an hour. So apparently being off the pace as far as qualifying does not matter at Talladega.
And remember that Bobby Allison says that particular Norris Industries Thunderbird is extremely sensitive in the draft. It picks up a draft. He says it sniffs out the draft. The car is running very strong. Remember, he won the Daytona 500 and the Atlanta 500, 2 strong super speedway races.
There are an awful lot of drivers who came into this race today feeling that they had a great chance to win it. We talked about it yesterday in one of our shows here from Talladega about the confidence in the garage area. Ned Jarrett is standing by on pit road, and he can fill us in a little more on that.
I don't think I've ever seen more confident among a larger number of drivers and crews, Barney, going into this race. There's any number of them. They've seen some of the dark horses win here before, and so some of the fellows who've never won a Grand National race feel that they have a shot at it here today, and a couple of those are running right up there in that pack like Lenny Pond.
Ned, coming to the world's fastest speedway as an ex-driver yourself, you know what it takes to get one of these machines around a track. Here they push it to the ultimate limit. Would there be one particular concern among these drivers at the speeds they run here?
Well, I guess their biggest concern is the engine holding together, Barney. With the fuel cells today and the tires, the double tires that they run, those are great safety factors that have been added to these cars. But there's always that concern that either you or someone around you might blow an engine and dump some oil or water on the track. And boy, when you hit it with the slick surface tires that they use, you don't have much control of the automobile. And, of course, running the cars wide open all around this track is extremely hard on the engines, and so that's a concern for them.
It seems to me, Barney, that attrition would really take its toll at a place like this.
It would seem that way, but a lot of times there are more cars running at the end of a 500-mile race here at Talladega than they are on some of the tracks where they do not even approach these speeds.
Well, I think that you'd have to give some of that credit to the preparation. Of course, anytime any of the top teams go to a NASCAR Winston Cup race, they prepare those cars as well as they know how. They're as good as they are when they're brand new, but it seems like they are able to put forth a little bit of extra effort when they come to a high-speed track like this, and of course for the amount of money that they run for here too, and that results in more cars being around at the end of the race.
Well, we had a new leader momentarily as Yarborough took it away from Buddy Baker. Then here they come out of the fourth corner. They're door-to-door right now, still dicing for the lead.
And playing switch. Lap car ahead of them. Somebody will have to give. Cale trying to squeeze by the wall. Baker trying to make room.
Three abreast as they come across the trioval portion of the speedway. Still a dead heat, and it would be a photo finish if that were the last lap as they go across the stripe. Baker by maybe an inch or so. They're back in turn one, and they're still door-to-door.
Buddy Baker taking the low groove. Cale Yarborough going up high. Running third is Darrell Waltrip. Going fourth, Benny Parsons. Fifth, Richard Petty. Out of number two, it's Buddy Baker down low. Here comes Cale standing on it. He goes out near the wall. It's Cale Yarborough with the lead. Buddy Baker in second.
Aiming their noses for the north turn right now. Cale Yarborough pulls up into the lead. Buddy Baker slips back into second. Darrell Waltrip third. And Richard Petty goes low on the track beside Waltrip.
The bottom of the racetrack at turn 3 has been the place to pass, and Petty tried to put the move on Waltrip, and Waltrip won't let him go. They're side by side coming out of turn 4.
Nobody wants to give up that lead once they get up there. This time it's Yarborough, but Baker comes chomping after him. Here he comes down to the inside, and he may get him before they get to the stripe, and Jackie Root again, a dead heat.
Indeed it was, Barney, working the 29th circuit here of 188 laps, and with the record speeds we're setting, we have to remember that Buddy Baker's world record for 500 miles could be in jeopardy today.
It could well be. In fact, almost a poll of the drivers, almost everyone to a man, said that there would be new speed records set here today if there were no great amount of caution flags. The field, the front 12 cars, move up into the number 3 corner.
Barney, pit stop should be coming up within the next 10 laps, perhaps 7 or 8 laps. Grant Adcox is going out of the pits now. That was unscheduled. They had the hood up on the car. He's overheating. They did change tires and filling up gasoline while he was in. The Singer, Marty Robbins, was in a couple of laps ago for an unscheduled pit stop for a change of tires. He's back in the action now.
And speaking of overheating, Ricky Rudd has just brought his car to the garage area because of an overheating problem. He says he hopes to go back out. James Hilton has retired his automobile, never finished the first lap. He's a former winner here at Talladega, but today it was the transmission. Back to the tower.
That's the voice of Joe Alloy. He's covering the action in the garage area this afternoon. We'll be talking with some of the drivers that do encounter mechanical problems and fall by the wayside. The battle for the lead, it just keeps the folks here jumping up and down, up and down. Baker takes it away from Yarborough again, and it's unusual now that Waltrip backs off, and he's just watching what's going on between the first and second place cars. They're going at it hammer and tong up in turn 3 and 4.
And this time it's Cale on the bottom of the racetrack. Cale Yarborough, 1 car length advantage over Baker. Darrell Waltrip tucked tight in the draft. Bobby Allison has moved up to 4th. There's a break for the hometown fans. Benny Parsons at 5th, Richard Petty, Donnie Allison, Dick Brooks, and Neil Bonnet.
Baker down to the inside, Yarborough on the outside, and they come across the stripe again. Almost a dead heat, but it is Baker by just about a half a car length. We are 30 laps into the event this afternoon, 188 laps in the 500 miles here at Talladega. Here they go back into turn number 1, and there is traffic ahead.
Off the banking, Buddy Baker taking it down low. Cale Yarborough going out near the wall. Again, Cale with the advantage. There goes Darrell Waltrip, makes it 3 wide down the stretch.
Approaching a thick wall of traffic. It's 3 wide. Down to the inside, Waltrip. Right in the middle is Buddy Baker. Up to the outside is Cale, and it's 3 abreast as they go down to the north turn.
Waltrip comes up 1 groove with the lead. Baker is right behind him. Cale up in the high groove. Baker sniffs out a spot in the running order. He falls in line behind Darrell Waltrip, the Gatorade Chevrolet, leading the Talladega 500.
Darrell Waltrip with that Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Many of the drivers, Barney, did not think that the Monte Carlo was going to be competitive. Planking the Oldsmobile down low comes Buddy Baker. He's challenging for the lead.
It's Buddy Baker with the advantage. Again, he takes the lead. It's Darrell Waltrip running second, Cale going third, Bobby Allison fourth, Benny Parsons, then Richard Petty, Donnie Allison, Dick Brooks, Neil Bonnet, then Lenny Pond and David Pearson. No surprise to see Buddy Baker out in front. He's led more laps here at Talladega, 735 entering this race, more than any other race driver on the Grand National Circuit.
Nobody tests Baker on this trip down into the 33-degree banking at turn number 3 and 4.
Traffic ahead for Buddy Baker and Darrell Waltrip, 1 car length back. Cale Yarborough, a respectable 4 car length distance off the lead duo as they come through traffic and head towards the line.
Let's take a look at the average speed at the end of 30 laps. It was 192.805 miles per hour as they come to the stripe. It's Baker over Waltrip. Yarborough runs third. Bobby Allison is fourth. Benny Parsons is fifth. Running in sixth is the STP Dodge of Richard Petty.
And Jackie, the first of those front-running cars to pit is Dick Brooks in the Truxmore Industry Mercury. Junie Donlevy and the crew go to work. It is a scheduled pit stop. Change right side tires and, of course, fill it up with that Union 76 gasoline.
Leaders work down midway down that long backstretch at over 210 miles per hour.
Staying single file, Buddy Baker now has the lead. Darrell Waltrip is running second, Cale Yarborough third, and there's only 3 in the front draft now. Is breaking away is the 15 Thunderbird.
A very good pit stop for Dick Brooks, 15.5 seconds.
Many of the people felt that Dick Brooks had a very good shot at becoming a repeat winner in that Truxmore car. If there was ever a racetrack that is suited to the running of like a Dick Brooks, it has to be this one, Barney. They say that you have to brave it a little bit to get around fast at Talladega, and Brooks does not object to doing that.
Well, we've seen him run up in the lead draft and come as far from 11th and 12th and swing all the way up and take the lead or move to second and third. He likes to ride the draft. He enjoys it. In fact, most of the drivers here are pretty comfortable at running at the speeds of 192 to 195 miles an hour. As we said yesterday, this track designed for those kind of speeds. It's wide, there's plenty of racing room, and there's plenty of room if you should get in trouble to get down on the apron of the track.
I can't believe the last lap, 47.68. That equates out to over 201 miles per hour, Barney.
Phenomenal run for these drivers this afternoon, and now that lead draft that started out with 17 has dwindled down to 6 cars. Here they come back to the stripe with some lapped automobiles directly ahead. Buddy Baker, let's see which lane he takes. Baker takes it right out to the concrete wall. Waltrip rides in second, Cale is third. At Alabama International Motor Speedway, we're 35 laps into the race, and some of the front runners have pitted. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
13 8/10 seconds for the Bud Moore Norris Industries crew. Got Bobby Allison out. He and Richard Petty came in together. Petty went out in 15.5. Donnie Allison was in 15 6/10 seconds. Neil Bonnet going out in the Armor All Chevrolet. He had a little longer stop, something like 19 seconds.
And the lead car, Buddy Baker, just now pulling onto pit road.
So all the front runners began to take advantage of the fact that they're going to have to get in the pits. Some of them may stretch it a little bit and stay out there an extra lap or so, hoping for a caution flag to make that first pit stop. But, Ned, they can't afford to gamble this early in the race.
Not at all, Barney. And they don't know exactly what kind of gas mileage they can get, especially running the speeds they're running out there today. They aren't going to get the mileage that they might have gotten here in practice, so they got to sort of gauge it on this first stop and then work from there on down the line. So it does not pay to take a gamble here and stay out there too long. Buddy Baker almost running over one of a pit crew. In fact, he brushed his leg of one of Skip Manning's crew members as he went out of the pits. Baker was in the pits for 16 9/10 seconds.
Baker, the driver from Charlotte, North Carolina, who really gets uptight before a race, but once they drop the green flag, he can get the job done. He's back into the number 1 corner, takes it down into traffic, coming back up to racing speed. Here's Lenny Pond in and out of the pits, and in the next lap or so, all the front runners will
Cale
be
Yarborough and Benny Parsons are in the pits right now. And that crew member of Skip Manning's, that he's in the pit area, but he's sitting down. They're attending him. It brushed his leg as he went out, as Buddy was trying to exit the pit. Another car was trying to come in, and Buddy perhaps couldn't see him as he was rolling a tire away, and Skip had just made his pit stop and was pulling out. Cale Yarborough down off the jacks. He and Benny Parsons coming out simultaneously in just over 16 seconds. They raced down pit road.
Barney, we're not surprised to see that Darrell Waltrip will be the last of the leaders to pit. He said last week at Pocono that he was getting better gas mileage than many of the other cars, and he stayed out a lap longer than any of the other leaders. Waltrip is now headed for pit road.
Well, that's a good point, Mike Joy, because last week at Pocono, if it had come down to a last fuel stop, he was in better shape than anybody. He has been getting more mileage lately than any of the drivers. He is on pit road right now, so that will be just about all of the front runners that have been up there.
Bad news for the native tan Dodge of Frank Warren, coasting down the back straightaways on the apron area, well out of harm's way, but tough for one of the nicer independent drivers on the field, Frank Warren.
He might have run too long. He could be out of gas, Mike, as he coast in, or Eli Gold.
Lo and behold, guess who's leading this Talladega 500? Number 90, the Truxmore Industries Ford of Dick Brooks of Porterville, California, but glued right to the rear decklet is the Armor All Chevrolet of Neil Bonnet. They head to the south end of the Speedway.
Neil Bonnet takes an entire... Now, here comes Frank Warren down in front of me, and he is, Ned Jarrett, out of gas, and whether he'll make it back to the pits or not is another question. He's going extremely slow.
We have troubles in turn number 1 and 2. A car spinning. That's the number 17 of Roger Hamby. Goes up the banking, comes down. Look out in front of race traffic. He gets down well out of trouble now. A bit of a hairy moment for Roger Hamby, the young runner, one of the Rookie of the Year contenders on the Grand National Circuit. He's down on the grassy apron area, but a bit of a hairy drive for Roger Hamby.
And it's a race back to the start-finish line at the end of the tri-oval area. One car getting involved. One of your leaders, Darrell Waltrip, was tagged badly in that crash. Field works the north end of the Speedway. They come to the stripe.
Out of the number 4 corner and back to the line, and if Waltrip indeed did get smacked in that, it's going to be a bad break for him because he had been up in the lead all afternoon, proving that he could run there, and Richard Petty will lead Baker, Allison, Pearson. As Waltrip comes across the line, we're looking to see if there's any damage on the car, but he came extremely close. We don't see any sheet metal damage on this side.
The left side looked okay too, Barney, as he came by. Most of the cars, Richard Petty was in the lead of that group as they came across the start-finish line. Bill Gazaway, the competition director of NASCAR, warned the fellows this morning in the drivers' meeting. He said, if there's a caution flag, fellas, said, get off of it. Said, especially if it's early in the race, don't take that chance of coming back 200 miles an hour to the line. You never know what the problem might be somewhere, and be careful. And Richard Petty being out front, he listened, and he brought it very much under control as he came down.
Roger Hamby didn't suffer much damage in that. He came on down through the apron here, and it looked like he wasn't too bad at all.
Barney, it was a case of momentum being the saving grace for the Gatorade Chevrolet, because as Darrell Waltrip was streaking through the south end of the Speedway midway through turns 1 and 2, he saw the Ellis car, the Hamby Ellis car of Roger Hamby, going sideways midway through that turn 1 and 2 area. He backed off, and it was kind of a chain reaction. He got tagged real good in the rear decklet area, but does not seem to show too much damage, although he did get off the throttle momentarily to survey the damage and then came back at full tilt.
Jackie, we've got a real problem coming into the pit area because the slower car that had run out of gas is almost blocking the entrance to the pit road, and the cars that are trying to pit are having to go around him, and it's making really a problem right here at the end of pit road.
Well, that's most of the cars that are making pit stops now. Most of the front runners who had just stopped under the green for right side tires and gasoline now are coming back in for left side tires. And Jackie, as you pointed out, I believe all of the top running cars had made their pit stop under the green, so this caution is no particular advantage to any of them as far as pit stops are concerned.
You know, Jackie, when you watch that incident in turn 1 and 2, you've got to think about the drivers behind Roger Hamby. When Hamby had it down low on the racetrack, then all of a sudden the car spun again, and he started going back up the banking. And as these drivers are known to do, they just went in every which direction to avoid yet another confrontation. So you've got to give a good bit of credit to those drivers moving at pretty good speeds just behind Roger Hamby.
We are under caution here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. 41 laps have been completed of the 188th this afternoon, and just about everybody has been back in for a second pit stop.
Stopping by the booth with us under this caution, Barney, is the United States Senator from Alabama, Senator Marion Allen, Mrs. Jim Allen, who succeeded her husband. You've been around Talladega for the 10 years that we've seen races here, and this is just an unbelievable event thus far, I would think. How can you compare it to some of the other races?
Well, the other ones I've been to, it's been raining. So this is beautiful but hot.
It's awfully hot out on the racetrack, too. Your impressions as far as this facility here, Senator, has it done a great deal for the state of Alabama?
Oh, you know, it's magnificent, and we owe so much to Bill for bringing it to us. And he's just made us an international thing.
There's no question about it. You can travel just about anywhere all over the country, and they'll talk about Alabama International Motor Speedway.
Well, of course, we already had the great football teams and other things, but Bill brought us the racing, and we're mighty proud of it.
Well, because of the summertime. The football team doesn't play in the summer.
Well, they would try if they could.
And we need some action. Your impressions of the race today, Do you have someone that maybe you're pulling for a little bit on the side?
Well, of course, the super famous ones, but I guess I have to pull for that lady out there because I know how she feels.
Janet Guthrie, who's running very strongly today.
Yeah, she's pretty magnificent, isn't she? I can't imagine anything worse than being out there with all those men in those hot cars.
Well, we thank you for stopping by, and we wish you continued good success in
you so much.
Your efforts, and also on behalf of the entire Alabama International Motor Speedway team, we're just pleased to have you here today.
Well, thank you. We're mighty proud of Bill, too. He's done us proud.
United States Senator Marion Allen stopping by during this caution period. And, Barney, it looks like we're working, the 43rd circuit here, and the Pontiac safety car has the field in tow. Kind of ironical that the caution would come out at that time after all the leaders make their pit stops.
Jackie, we have a real good break for Grant Idcox, though, because Grant had brought his automobile in, the Crystal Chevrolet, saying he had a valve problem. But thanks to the fast work of his pit crew and his mechanics, they say it was not a valve problem. They made a correction on the motor, and when the caution came out, he went back out, did not lose much time. So that only leaves us with 2 automobiles in the garage, James Hilton and Ricky Rudd, who have retired for the day.
Jackie, let's update you on the fellow that was brushed by Buddy Baker's car during the green flag stop. It was Paul McDonald with the Skip Manning crew. Paul is still in the pit area. They have taped his ankle, and he is going to remain out here and try to help service that car the rest of the way. So if there's any of the folks listening in, it was Paul, and he is okay. He does have an injured leg, but he had a pretty close call.
43 laps have been concluded here in this 188-lap event, the 500 miles at Talladega. Benny Parsons leads. David Pearson runs second. Richard Petty is third. Cale Yarborough is fourth.
It looks like they're getting ready to drop the green on the field again after a fairly short caution. We're 43 laps into the event of 188 this afternoon. Green flag as the field comes flying out of the tri-oval. The leader had been Benny Parsons, but David Pearson wastes no time going through the gearbox, moves him right in behind Dave Marcus's car, and Pearson has the lead. Pure later car of David Pearson leads him down to the number 1 corner, and Benny Parsons rides second.
Up the banks goes David Pearson. That's Benny Parsons. Right on the bumper. Then comes Richard Petty. He's tucked in behind Dave Marcus. Goes around Marcus, running third. Going fourth, Cale Yarborough. Off the banking of number 2, David Pearson motoring down the back straightaway. It's Richard Petty in third, trying to make a move. He draws alongside of Benny Parsons.
Petty comes down now to the inside. He tucks in behind Parsons, or down into the backstretch. Still number 1 going into the turns now. Here's the Pure Later Mercury of David Pearson. Parsons still 2 and Petty 3.
Cale Yarborough, a bold move on the bottom of the racetrack at turn 3. It put him past Petty, and he is side by side with Parsons. David Pearson in the Mercury to lead them. Cale Yarborough on the bottom. Parsons cuts low and cuts him off.
4 cars run for the lead here at the start-finish line, and down to the inside comes Parsons. He takes the lead away from Pearson, dropping him back to second. Riding third is Richard Petty, and fourth is Cale Yarborough. If you have never seen a race at Talladega, Alabama, you have got to come sometime and see one. The racing here is phenomenal. The field back in turns 3 and 4.
David Pearson, the red and white gold numeral Pure Later Mercury, running the bottom of the racetrack, slips up in the high groove, and Pearson has the lead once again. It's one of those Citicorp Oldsmobiles in the second spot with Richard Petty sandwiched in third. Yarborough is second. Petty is third. Parsons, Waltrip, and Bobby Allison.
The Silver Fox has a pack of hounds at his heels. Yarborough leads them, and he's going to take the lead away from Pearson. Pearson back to second. Petty third. Parsons fourth. Waltrip is fifth. Sixth right now is Bobby Allison. They snarl back into turn 1.
Cale Yarborough takes the middle groove. Likewise, everybody else. It's now coming out of that turn number 2 area. We have 9 cars in that lead draft with Dave Marcus down low, making it 10. It's Cale Yarborough, then David Pearson, Richard Petty, Benny Parsons down the backstretch.
Over 200 miles an hour and to the floorboard goes Cale Yarborough in the first National City Traveler Check Chevrolet. Second is Pearson in the Mercury, and the grand finale of the Dodge and Petty are in third spot now.
10 cars right now in the lead draft. The thing's pretty much stabilized. Dave Marcus working the bottom of the racer. There's a lot of smoke. It looks like Skip Manning's car. Coming out of turn 4, smoking heavily. He shuts it down and starts to coast.
Skip Manning, who is on the tail end of that draft, and the smoke continues to pour from the car, and what tough luck this young driver from Bogalusa, Louisiana has had here at Talladega. And, Jackie, that's going to be all for him.
It will be all for him, but it's 3 wide in the south end of the Speedway for the lead.
Now it's Benny Parsons with the advantage. Cale Yarborough running second. Then it's David Pearson and Richard Petty, door handle to door handle. Darrell Waltrip close behind, leading it down the back straightaway. Benny Parsons, Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip.
4 lanes of traffic. They're only using 3 right now, but down into the 4th turn goes Buddy Baker as he tries to move up through a pack of them and goes by David Pearson down on the low side of the track to the turn.
Pearson gets sandwiched 3 wide. The battle for the lead coming out of turn number 4. Richard Petty sits in the second spot. Behind the sandwich between the Oldsmobiles coming out of turn number 4. On the point, Cale Yarborough, Petty, Parsons, Waltrip, Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker.
12 drivers again go back in the lead draft. Richard Petty, he has not been in the lead this afternoon. He's up to second position, and he just hammers on the bumper of Cale Yarborough and look for the STP Dodge to get out front if there's any way. He's in second spot, third is Waltrip, and fourth right now is Parsons. They're back in 1.
It's Buddy Baker making a move into position number 5. Out of the turn, it's still with the advantage. Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip, Benny Parsons, then Baker, Bobby Allison, Neil Bonnet. They head to Mill.
Richard Petty makes his move down to the inside. Waltrip follows him out down into the second lane, and Petty takes the lead for the first time in the Dodge as they go to the North Banks.
The STP Dodge of Richard Petty in what could be its final race is on the front row, and the fans come to their feet and give Petty a standing ovation. It's only the 8th race he's led this year, but Petty will try to carry them to the line. Darrell Waltrip with his Chevrolet trying to see that he doesn't.
The magnum force of the STP Dodge establishes itself at the line. He will lead the 49th lap. The STP Dodge of Richard Petty out front, leading 12 cars into turn 1.
Buddy Baker making a nice move. He's running second. He's running the bumper of Richard Petty. That's Darrell Waltrip going third. Running in the 4th position and 5th position, Cale Yarborough and Benny Parsons. Back in the pack, it's Bobby Allison, Neil Bonnet, David Pearson. That's a big packing, but the leadership still for Richard Petty. They go to turn 3.
Caution is out once again here at Alabama International Motor Speedway. For the story, let's go to Eli Gold.
Well, it's been a long trip from Paris, France for Claude Ballalena driving the JMS Dodge. The engine coming unglued midway down that 4,000-foot back straightaway. Pulled the car well down into the apron area, but it does bring out the caution.
Well, the second caution flag of the day has been displayed to the field in lap number 50 here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, and we have seen some racing that is just unbelievable. You think every time you come to Talladega, there's no way they can top what you saw today, and then they come right back and they do it all over again, and even more so.
And all the leaders are in the pits now during the caution. They're in for a change of right side tires this time. They changed those under the under the green earlier, then came back and changed the left side under caution. So they're checking those right side out now and filling the tank with that gasoline.
Neil Bonnet will go right behind the Pontiac safety car to be declared your leader as they tour the Speedway, and it looks like feeding time at the zoo down on pit road.
Well, here comes Cale Yarborough. He will be one of the first to get in and out, and that car has performed flawlessly here this afternoon. As a matter of fact, there have been about 12 of them that have rode that lead draft to swap it back and forth. And these drivers continue to feel each other out all the way up through the early part of the race. They'll try you down in the number 1 corner here in the tri-oval, but most of the passing we have seen today thus far has been just coming out of 4 and moving by Mike Joy.
Well, that spot, Marty, has been quite the place, especially down in the tri-oval. They'll run single file out of turn 4. Then when they come to the tri-oval, what at Daytona would be the start-finish line, but here just leaves 1,800 feet to the finish line. That's where they get 2 and 3 wide and really stack them up coming for the line. And it really sets the stage for quite a finish here at Talladega. You remember in the spring, the Winston 500, with Cale Yarborough beat Buddy Baker on the last turn of the last lap. And we could see the same thing here repeated many times during the 188 laps of this race.
Still under caution here as they continue to work the GMC safety trucks doing their duty in turn number 2 after the engine expired on Claude Ballalena's car.
Jackie, we mentioned the fact that Skip Manning was having an engine problem a little bit earlier in the car number 92. They have the car pushed behind pit wall now and are working on it. They're trying to get it repaired and get it back in the race. Earl Canavan had to push his Pepsi Dodge into the garage area and out of the race also.
Continuing under caution here, the 53rd circuit has been completed in the Talladega 500. With us in the booth right now is the senior senator from the state of Arizona, Senator Barry Goldwater, who also served as the Grand Marshal today. And Senator Goldwater, we understand that you are a longtime racing fan. In fact, you came to one event, I think it was, 2 years ago, but Indianapolis Cars was really where you got started. Is that right?
No, it goes back before that. I first remember dirt track races out in Arizona with Barney Oldfield and Ralph De Palma and people like that, and then Indianapolis about 32. But I'll have to admit that while I was an Indianapolis-type fan, after having seen these races, I'm all for this kind of racing.
An avid pilot as well, and when you stop and think about the fact that these cars are hurtling around here at speeds that most small airplanes would fly at, it really has to tell you something about the prowess that it takes to be a race driver.
Well, I wouldn't want to try it, and I've flown an airplane 2,200 miles an hour, but I don't want to go 200 miles an hour that close to the ground.
Senator, do you think stock car racing will keep growing at the pace it has in the last few years? It's almost become the #1 sport in the United States.
Oh, I think it will. All it takes is exposure. And once you say, I was an avid Indianapolis type fan until I saw this race 2 years ago down here, and I go to Indianapolis, but I don't get the kick out of it I get here.
Well, we've got plenty of racing left. It looks as if the Pontiac safety car is going to duck onto pit road. Very quickly, your pick for a win today.
Oh, they're all good. I'd have to stay with Yarborough. He's always riding that foot.
He does have a heavy foot indeed. They're getting ready for a start. We hope you enjoy the race the rest of the afternoon. Thanks for stopping by.
And on the drop of the green flag, it's the STP Dodge of Richard Petty, planking himself high, wide, and Hanson to take the lead. Donnie Allison runs in second. They go to turn 1.
Richard Petty with the advantage. He takes it mid-groove. That's Dave Marcus close behind Petty. Donnie Allison down low in spot number 2. Then David Pearson, Darrell Waltrip, Then Buddy Baker down low is Bruce Hill with those leaders. But it's Richard Petty down the back straightaway, showing the way. It's Donnie Allison tucking himself back in there, jockeying for position.
But Buddy Baker is the one that jockeys way down low, and Cale Yarborough goes lower yet down to the apron to try for the lead, but Petty's the man on the point as they go to the north turn.
David Pearson back up among the leaders with Buddy Baker, Darrell Waltrip, all trailing Richard Petty of the STP Dodge out of turn number 4. Single file, the first 6 cars, then it's stacked 2 and 3 wide down the short chute, heading for the tri-oval.
There was conversation in the garage area all week that don't be surprised if Richard Petty jumps out in the lead and tries to stay there all day, and everybody said, no way, it's the last race for the Dodge, but it is there. STP Dodge in front. David Pearson riding in second position. Back in third is Buddy Baker. Fourth right now is car number 88, the Gatorade Machine, as they work traffic just going out of turn 2.
Coming off the banking, Richard Petty leads him down the back straightaway. David Pearson, Buddy Baker, Darrell Waltrip, Donnie Allison, then the Cuckoo Marlin automobile, the Lenny Parnes machine as well.
Making another move, Buddy Baker moves out. Darrell Waltrip right behind him, so they're 2 and 4 going into the turns this time, and Baker looks like he can grab Petty.
2 by 2, the bottom groove moves. It is Baker into first. Petty holds second, and Petty jumps on the bottom in turn 4. Petty puts it right on the bottom of the racetrack, and he runs Baker for all he's worth to the tri-oval.
Richard Petty, the red and blue STP Dodge, has the crowd at his feet, and going to the high side is Buddy Baker. Baker slipstreams by to take the lead. Darrell Waltrip likewise runs in second. Petty losing ground in turn 1.
Richard Petty being drop-kicked out the 4th position. It's Buddy Baker, Darrell Waltrip, then David Pearson and Richard Petty. They're side by side for 3rd and 4th. Exiting turn number 2. Buddy Baker still showing the advantage. Darrell Waltrip. Now Richard Petty cuts down low, tries to make a move on David Pearson. Pearson holds him off for 3rd.
Everybody moves up high toward the wall. Down inside goes Cale Yarborough now. Once again down to the 4th lane, trying to go around Petty, but Baker still pulls Waltrip through the lead.
Petty shuts Cale off for the 6th spot. It is Buddy Baker. In turn 4, Darrell Waltrip chewing away at his back bumper. David Pearson in the 3rd spot. Here they come out of turn number 4. Single file for the tri-oval. Donnie Allison in 4th. Richard Petty, then Cuckoo Marlin and Cale.
This action will lighten your head and give you white knuckles, Barney. They make it single file at over 200 miles per hour with Baker in front. Right glued to the rear bumper is the Gatorade Chevrolet of Darrell Waltrip. They begin to pull away from David Pearson, who runs in 3rd. Donnie Allison is 4th. Petty drops back to 5th.
Those leaders, they try and they love to work that automobile. Darrell Waltrip right on the tail of Buddy Baker. Then David Pearson trying to put a move on. Pearson looks to breathe the car, tucks himself back in.
2,000 feet down, it's decision time, and nobody makes the decision. Everybody's single file with Baker on the point, and Waltrip right tucked in behind on the back bumper.
Well, after a wild game of run and shuffle, the race has stabilized once again. But what is stabilized? 12 cars running single file at 200 miles an hour. Buddy Baker, Darrell Waltrip, David Pearson, Donnie Allison, Richard Petty, the front 5.
There is no other kind of racing in the world that you will see this many cars running for the lead, running that close together as they move around this mammoth speedway here in Alabama. There are still 12 cars in the lead draft. Let's take a look at the rundown a little further back.
Let's go a little further back. Start with Lenny Pond in the 11th position. 12th spot belongs to Richard Childress. J.D. McDuffie runs 13th. Janet Guthrie is 14th. Farrell Harris of Pikeville, Kentucky is 15th. 16th on the running order is Bill Elliott in the Delonico Ford Mercury. The Bearfinder car for Bruce Hill runs 17th. 18th is Cooper Cuckoo Marlin. 19th is the Al Holbert machine. In 20th is Dave Marcus. Ty Scott runs 21st. Jabe Thomas's boy, Ronnie Thomas, runs 22nd. 23rd is Dale Earnhardt. Baxter Price is 24th. 25th is Dick May. 26th, Buddy Arrington. 27th is Marty Robbins. 28th belongs to Jimmy Means. D.K. Ulrich showing 29th. 30th is car number 4, Gary Myers. In 31st is the Roger Hemby car. 32nd is a car number 25, and then they go back further, and those are the retirees. But the average speed is 176.675 miles per hour.
Well, in case you joined our broadcast late, they were turning laps at in the neighborhood of 200 miles an hour. That was average speed all the way around the track, and to do that, they must run well over 200 in the straightaways. Field strings out down the backstretch, and as 12 cars continue to ride that lead draft, they swap it back and forth. They're up in turn 3 and 4 again.
Buddy Baker ahead of Darrell Waltrip is just one car length first to second. They've got 3 lengths of breathing room to David Pearson. Then Richard Petty in the 4th spot, Cale Yarborough, Donnie Allison, Bobby Allison sitting in the 7th spot ahead of Neil Bonnet, Benny Parsons, Lenny Pond, Dick Brooks, and Cuckoo Marlin.
Back to the line, it will be Buddy Baker, and Baker must have a grin, Jackie Root, about 3 feet wide, because anytime he can lead a race, he's a happy man. He just does not want to give it up. He was sky high, really psyched out of his mind almost this morning. He was so enthusiastic about this race and feeling like he could win.
I told everybody when I went with MC Anderson at the first of the year, it'd take about 6 months for us to really become a racing team, and we got a little false chance there at the first of the year by a chance of maybe winning Daytona and having engine trouble right at the end. But it's been 6 months, and we really hadn't been that competitive, but we are now. We have good engine man. We have our own engine shop. We got 2 good race cars, and we're ready to go racing now.
There's been an awful lot of rumors about Buddy Baker that he might leave the MC Anderson team. There was possibility that he could go with Hoss Ellington, that there would be some changes there, but Baker denies all that, says he's extremely happy where he is, and I can see why. He leads the best in the world this afternoon here at Alabama International Motor Speedway. We pause now for station identification. We are talking about the front 10 and 12 cars. What a tremendous duel they're having for those positions. The racing is just as good back in the pack. If you pick up 25th position, there are 5 and 6 cars riding the draft for that spot all the way around the speedway.
Barney, you were talking about Buddy Baker being high for this race. A fellow who also was very high for this one was Skip Manning of Bogalusa, Louisiana, in the Stratograph Buick here, but he's had problems with it. Skip, what put you out of the race?
A little 2-bit stud that holds the valve covers on broke off in the head, and it'd take so many laps to repair it that it wouldn't be worth going back out. So just a 2-bit item put us out today.
Skip, you did feel that you had a good shot at winning this race.
Yeah, we misjudged a little bit and had the car a little tight at the first of the race. And I got next to a few squirrels, too, and put me back. But we knew we had a long race to go, so when that caution hit, that put us back up there, and we were running right with the lead pack when the valve cover went. So I wasn't really worried. It usually takes me a few laps here to get going anyway, so I felt like we still had a chance.
When you say you got a couple extra squirrels, what do you mean?
Well, I'm not going to call any names since this is maybe the last race with this team, and I'll be looking for another ride. But one boy almost put me in the wall. I was upside of him going through the tri-oval, and he put me back. And as you know, anytime you have to get out of the gas here, it costs you for about a lap to get back up to speed. And that happened to me about twice early in the race. So I'm not making excuses, but a few little things like that can really hurt you. But when we got behind the good cars after the caution, I felt like we still had a good fighting chance for the day.
Skip, thanks for coming by. We hope to see you back out here competitive before too long.
I hope to be back as soon as possible.
From Alabama International Motor Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network.
Well, here they come back to the stripe, Buddy Baker, and this time door-to-door with Cale Yarborough. A couple of Oldsmobiles. Dice for the lead. They swing back in the number 1 corner. Still, there are 12 cars in that lead draft.
Up the wall they go. Cale Yarborough takes a bit of a higher line, then Buddy Baker floats up towards Cale. That's Benny Parsons running third with David Pearson and Darrell Waltrip. Down the back straightaway. On the inside, it's Baker. The outside, Cale Yarborough. Door handle to door handle.
That's the way they come down to 2,000 feet of the 4,000-foot back straightaway. However, Yarborough pulls ahead, so does Benny Parsons, and they leave Baker behind as they go to the 33-degree bank.
Baker caught on the bottom, and David Pearson will try to get by him for the 3rd spot. Darrell Waltrip, Donnie Allison, all up for the high groove. That leaves only Baker, Lenny Pond, and Richard Petty on the bottom. Coming out of turn 4, Yarborough and Parsons tucked in tightly, nose to tail.
Well, Jackie, you'd think it's the last lap. They've run that way since they dropped the green flag this afternoon, and we're 65 laps into the 188-lap contest.
The pressure has got to be unbelievable, Barney, when you run that close and that hard. And remember, as Benny Parsons told us, with the tinted windshields, the problem, the 200-mile-per-hour speeds, you just got to begin to wonder how a driver can go 500 miles with this type of action.
The type of concentration it must take to run at these speeds, your reaction time and everything else, and thinking about if something happens in front of you. If you have any nerves at all, it would almost have to wipe them out.
Cale Yarborough really feels that it is probably one of the most fatiguing races to run, right, Cale?
Oh, yeah. It's takes more out of it here, probably physically and mentally than any other racetrack.
Field out of the banking up in turn number 4 as they work the tri-oval again, and it continues to be just 3 abreast as they come into the tri-oval. This time, Baker makes a move on both Yarborough and Parsons and gets the lead back. It is Buddy Baker out front. Dead heat for the second spot between the 2 First National City Oldsmobiles. Field goes back into 1.
The battle for second place. Cale going high. Benny Parsons staying low. They're door handle to door handle with David Pearson running 4th. Back in front of the pack. That's Buddy Baker stowing the way. Down the back straightaway still. You can throw a blanket over those second and third place cars. Now Cale on the inside makes a move.
They run up on some slower traffic, but Cale's move makes no difference at this time. He's right side by side, door handle to door handle now, spread a little bit apart with Baker, and taking the lead midway to the turn is Yarborough.
Benny Parsons on the bottom trying to get by Pearson for third. It is Yarborough, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, David Pearson as they come out of turn 4, and it is Parsons caught on the low side. Pearson will get him for third.
Field again will be moving up on some lapped automobiles. Yarborough has the lead. Baker falls back to second. It's Pearson up to third. Fourth is Walker. Fifth right now is Parsons. Sixth is Donnie Allison. Seventh is Neil Bonnet. And to give you an idea of how effective the draft is here at Talladega, you hear us talk about it so much, Neil Bonnet qualified almost 6 miles an hour off the pace, and he has been right in the thick of things all afternoon. He drafted the other day with 4 cars at over 195 miles an hour.
In layman's terms, the draft works almost like a vacuum cleaner effect, a teardrop effect off the lead car, and it creates a vacuum of air which actually pulls the other cars along, a choo-choo train as we call it. And that draft here, 12 and 13 cars, can escalate the speed as much as 7, 8, 9 miles per hour for all the cars. And what'll be interesting to watch is when it boils down to the last 4 or 5, just to see how many times they'll want to trade and seesaw back and forth that lead, because that's when the draft does not become effective.
Well, it becomes nerve then more than anything else. Field back across the stripe. Yarborough leads him. Baker third. Baker second, and Pearson is third. Still 12 cars in the lead draft as they move to Eli Gold.
Going way down low on the racetrack. Back at the tail end of that lead draft. Lenny Pond still glued down low. Back at the front of the pack with the advantage, Cale Yarborough. Buddy Baker going second. Then David Pearson, Darrell Waltrip, and Benny Parsons.
That's the way they run, past the 2,000-foot strip of the 4,000-foot back straightaway. Cale Yarborough runs on one slower car. Nobody moves out, but Baker moves down into the second lane, but no soup. He moves back into the draft.
And the way Buddy Baker has just flattened his car on the bottom of the racetrack anywhere on any one of the turns here shows he's got to have one of the superior handling cars here today. He trails Cale Yarborough by 1 car length as they come to the tri-oval.
Well, again, Buddy Baker just will not let you keep that lead. Every time somebody gets up there, Baker, if he falls back to third or fourth, he'll pick his way back up through traffic, and he'll challenge you for it again. He's back at it on Cale Yarborough in turn 1.
The gentle giant from Charlotte, North Carolina, Buddy Baker. He's riding it down low. Cale Yarborough going up high with David Pearson running third. Out down the back straightaway. Still, Baker on the inside. Yarborough on the outside. They're in that order down to Bill.
Baker seems to have taken the lead a little bit, but now way down goes Darrell Waltrip, down almost to the apron, and Waltrip's going to take over the lead if he can stay, and Baker has to move in down behind Waltrip, and Waltrip has the lead midway.
Waltrip Chevrolet Snookers, the 2 Oldsmobiles at turn 3. Here's Lenny Pond on the bottom, looking for fourth from David Pearson. At the head of the field, Darrell Waltrip, Gatorade Chevrolet, Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough, David Pearson, Lenny Pond.
No let up for the battle for the lead. 12 cars still in the lead draft. 73 laps are down to the 188-lap contest this afternoon. The action in the north end of the track in 3 and 4.
Cale Yarborough leads Buddy Baker and Darrell Waltrip. Lenny Pond has just eaten away at that lead draft, and he's climbed up into the 4th position. Pond and the Widows will be 4th. Pearson is 5th. Parsons, Donnie, and Bobby Allison, Neil Bonnet.
They continue to scramble for the lead. They almost stack them 3 deep again. Baker and Cale Yarborough just going to wear those Oldsmobiles out before the afternoon is over to see who can lead the laps. They swap it back and forth, and if official lead changes were made every time it happened around the raceway, Jackie, they'd have 1,000 lead changes here at Talladega.
Well, the official lead changes occur at the start-finish stripe. 64 before, and it was set here at the Talladega Speedway, and that could be in jeopardy today.
Field up the backstretch as they move into turn number 3, and the battle continues for that front spot.
Baker and Yarborough go to turn number 3, but they're going to run into about 20 cars of traffic once they get down to the tri-oval area again.
Baker keeps it a low side. Remember, this was the battle on the last lap of the Winston 500 this spring. Heavy race traffic, but Baker finds racing room on the high side. Lenny Pond guns for second with Yarborough third.
A pack of traffic with 9 cars in it directly ahead as 12 cars are about to overhaul them here as they all duel for the lead.
Barney Hall, at the last pit stop, they made an adjustment on Lenny Pond's car, and it looks like it's paying off. This is the first time we've seen him battling for the lead here today.
He is right up there riding in second position right now as the field strings out single file. Ned Pitstop should be coming up again before too long.
Yes, perhaps in the next 10 to 15 laps, Barney.
Down the back chute. The action moves again to turn 3.
And Lenny Pond moves up into the lead. Lenny Pond is down right now to running the inside of Buddy Baker with Cale Yarborough tucked in behind Baker, and Pond is trying for that front, Mike.
And Baker keeps his foot right on the floor. Buddy Baker runs the high groove like he owns it and overhauls Lenny Pond out of turn 4. Cale Yarborough follows him by into second spot.
The seesaw back and forth, but Buddy Baker on the point as he comes to the stripe, leads it in the MC Anderson Oldsmobile. Cale Yarborough runs second, third spot, 2. Lenny Pond, a good effort thus far for the Win Incorporated team. They're in turn number 1.
Buddy Baker leading Cale Yarborough. They take a higher groove around race traffic. They're going to be meeting some traffic now. Who tries to back off? The Kelly Girl car cuts a bit down low, lets Buddy Baker come through. Cale running second, Lenny Pond running third. Pond's got to be thinking, let's make it 10 different winners in 10 years here at Talladega.
But Baker weaves through traffic nicely up on the high side with Cale tucked in right behind, with Pond following through as they go into the 33-degree north banks.
And up in the front, 2 of the grandmasters of 200-mile-an-hour chess, Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough, picking up where they left off in May at the head of the field in this Talladega 500.
Field back to the stripe as they move in the dogleg portion of Talladega. Talladega, a unique racetrack. It's a little bit different than Daytona. It's 2.66 miles in distance, and instead of a kind of a straightaway with just a little bit of a dog leg, the Alabama International Motor Speedway has kind of like a huge bulge right in front of pit road that swings out and makes it almost an extra turn in the speedway, and it's very difficult to negotiate that, although they can run as much as 5 and 6 abreast through there. And for one thing, you'll see more passing right in this area than anywhere else. And it makes for an exciting finish here at Talladega because, as Mike Joy brought out earlier, the start-finish line is located all the way down, almost in turn 1.
The lead cars working turn number 4 at this time. Buddy Baker continues to lead. Cale Yarborough having a tremendous run, Barney, in that first National Cities Oldsmobile. Don't forget, last week, engine problems sidelined him. He had his share of problems, changing an engine in 15 minutes. Here comes Lenny Pond down low. He goes downstairs and tries to overhaul Cale Yarborough for second. Across the stripe they come. Baker in front, but Yarborough's losing ground to Lenny Pond in turn 1.
Lenny Pond tucks himself back in behind Yarborough, but we're going to be hearing more from that popular Virginia driver. Darrell Waltrip is running 4th. Benny Parsons going 5th. Donnie Allison running 6th. Down the back straightaway. That's Buddy Baker, but there goes Cale Wilmove.
Cale Yarborough now moves out into the front around Baker, and Lenny Pond tries to follow him around down the back stretch, but he doesn't do so well on that one. But Pond does stay on the back. He might be taking Baker as they go halfway to the turn and toward Mike. He does.
Yarborough runs the low groove in the lead. Lenny Pond follows him in the draft, and Baker is back to third. Just like that, that's how fast it happens in Winston Cup racing. Waltrip is 4th, Benny Parsons and Donnie Allison.
6 cars in the lead draft now have opened up a little separation. It will be Yarborough leading. Pond is second, Baker third, Waltrip 4th, Parsons 5th. 6th position right now belongs to Donnie Allison. At Alabama International Motor Speedway, if the drivers don't wear their machines out, they're going to wear their self out here this afternoon. We are 80 laps into the race. 188 laps comprise this afternoon's event, 108 laps remaining. Field up in the banking in 3 and 4, and there is no let-up for the lead.
Certainly not, Barney Hall. Buddy Baker is back out in front, taking the lead in 3. They had on a 4 with Lenny Pond second, Cale Yarborough third. Darrell Waltrip is now back to 4th.
Back to the line, and again, here comes Lenny Pond as he begins to make his move on Buddy Baker. And as Ned Jarrett brought out a moment ago, it's the first time this afternoon that Lenny has been up running for the lead. He was in it a moment ago. Baker took it away from him. Cale Yarborough just literally pushes Buddy Baker, and both of them go after the lead in turn 1.
Lenny's down low, exiting the turn, but out high. Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough, Darrell Waltrip with the draft. All 3 of them whisking right by Lenny Pond.
Lenny Pond has to tuck himself back in behind Darrell Waltrip, back to 4th spot now, and in front of Benny Parsons. But he does like that front spot, and he'll try for it again, no doubt about it.
The most competitive auto racing in the world is right here, right now. Turn 4 at Talladega. Buddy Baker on the point. Cale Yarborough, Darrell Waltrip. As they come out of turn number 4 with Lenny Pond fourth, Benny Parsons, Donnie Allison, David Pearson, Bobby Allison as they head for the line.
Right behind the Armor All Chevrolet of Neil Bonnet, Richard Petty, then Dick Brooks, and Cuckoo Marlin. So the lead draft beginning to hitch up once again and make it 8, 9, maybe 10 cars as they go to turn 1.
Cale Yarborough, he's tucked in behind Buddy Baker, who has the lead. Running third, Darrell Waltrip, Lenny Pond going fourth. Pond with a bit of a lower line. Now down the back straightaway. 4, 5, 6 cars in that front draft. They move down to Bill Bowser.
Once again, Contentedness moves in as our single file. Nobody moves out to make a try this time as Buddy Baker, who's had the lead a long time this afternoon, has it once again.
Field stabilizes in the high 33-degree banking at turn number 4. That banking is so steep, it's like the roof of your house. A car cannot stay parked in the banking. It just slides down as they drift out of turn number 4. This time, Buddy Baker leads Yarborough, Waltrip, and Lenny Pond.
Cars come to the stripe once again with Buddy Baker continuing to be your leader. And one of the things that we should update our listeners on, Barney, the heat here is very important as far as the outcome of this race. The heat, very humid this morning as we got ready for the start of the event. And Buddy Baker, are you concerned about the effect that heat will have on this event?
I felt it before. Don't get me wrong. I had to almost have help here when I won the last race here, and it gets to you. I think mentally more so than physically. And anytime you get mentally drained, you start working on your physical end of it because you start making little stupid mistakes that you normally wouldn't make, and that adds a little extra work to it too. So.
At 200 miles per hour, you definitely don't want to make any kind of mistakes, even if they be little stupid mistakes.
And Jackie Root, the first of the front-running cars to pit, is Dick Brooks and the Junior Don Levy crew turning in fantastic pit stops here this afternoon. They just did a 13.7, change of 2 tires and add gasoline. Richard Childress is back in the pits for the 3rd time in the last 15 laps. He has an overheating problem with his Kansas Jack Oldsmobile, so Richard Childress dropping further behind.
Brooks seems to think that this year at Talladega, it may be his year for the Truxmore Ford.
Well, I think so. I think, the main thing at Talladega or Daytona, either one, is to be in a position to where you have a chance to do it at the end. And I think we've got enough car to probably stay in that position.
Thus far, he does. A quick pit stop. Good work by the Junie Dunleavy effort. The Mercury, car number 90, across the stripe. He's trying to catch that lead draft as they bear down on him. He's about ready to go a lap down. Remember, he's already been in the pits.
Well, most of the drivers, Jackie, who run anywhere from 5th, 6th, 7th every week and do not feel like they have enough money to really run up front with the Pettys and the Pearsons and everybody. When they come to Talladega, or even Daytona for that matter, they feel like they have a shot at winning here because the draft is the equalizer on this track. You don't have to have a strong engine. You can be a few horsepower down and just lock onto the draft, and the key is to staying in that lead draft and in the same lap all afternoon and be around at the finish. You can use the slingshot effect so greatly here in almost any part of this racetrack to move around.
Donnie Allison has just pitted the Hawaiian Tropic Oldsmobile. Hoss Ellington and his crew got him out in 15 2/10 seconds.
And that's a brand new car for the Hoss Ellington effort. He brought it here, and he was a day late getting it here, but the car seemed to be running up to snuff thus far, Ned.
Yes, he's been running very strong. He said this morning that he was pleased with the car. When they qualified, they'd only had 1 lap on the track, and his 2 laps of qualifying were very good. His brother Bobby is in the pits now, and the Bud Moore crew ready to go to work on that, a scheduled pit stop.
We've got action in turn number 1 and 2, going down low for the lead. Buddy Baker almost took Lenny Pond along with him. He's side by side. Baker with Cale Yarborough. Lenny Pond going 3rd. Then Benny Parsons, Darrell Waltrip running 4th and 5th. They go to Bill Bowser.
Lenny Pond is not content to stay back there. He's right up in the pack and running 2nd right now, but Buddy Baker moves down to the inside of Yarborough. Somebody wants first before they go into pit.
Well, they're stacked too deep at the 3rd turn. This could be a sly move on the part of some of the lower drivers on the racetrack to head for pit road. Here they come, pounding out of turn 4. It's Baker that drops off. Buddy Baker will pit. Cale Yarborough leads Lenny Pond and Benny Parsons.
4 cars. They're door to door going down to the number 1 corner. They're still racing for the lead. This time it's Cale Yarborough and Lenny Pond. They're up in turn 1.
Cale was down low, Lenny out towards the wall. Then comes Darrell Waltrip inside, and it's Benny Parsons outside. Down the back straightaway, 4 cars in a pack.
Trying to get maneuver before they hit a pack of slower cars and before they pit. Cale Yarborough moves out in front, but upside now in the middle lane is Buddy Baker trying hard once again.
2x2 at turn 4. Lenny Pond on the high side. Cale is on the bottom, and so is Waltrip. It looks like they'll both peel off and head for pit road along with David Pearson and Richard Petty. Lenny Pond will lead them to the stripe with Benny Parsons in tow.
At Alabama International Motor Speedway, 89 laps being indicated as having been completed in the world's fastest speedway, the Talladega 500 this afternoon. We have had 2 caution flags thus far. Roger Hamby, who spun early in the race, bringing out the first caution flag, but he made it back to the garage area. The car is back in competition, and the second caution flag came out a moment ago to give us only 2 caution flags. And thus far, the average speed of the race is continuing to climb right back up.
It's going up to 173.204 miles per hour on the last rundown. Remember, the record for 500 miles, 169.887 miles per hour. That's set in 1976 in the Winston 500 by none other than Buddy Baker of Charlotte, North Carolina.
That second caution flag, incidentally, brought out by Claude Ballerina, the great European road racer who's driving the JMS Dodge here this afternoon. He lost an engine on the car. It has retired.
Barney, the last of the front-running cars, Lenny Pond, is in the pits right now. Herb Knapp and the crew have him serviced in 15 3/10 seconds, a very good pit stop, and you would think that the heat here this afternoon would hinder those fellows when they come into the pits, but we've had some fantastic pit stops turned in here. The Junior Johnson crew got Cale Yarborough out in just over 13 seconds. Bud Moore had Bobby Allison out in just over 14 seconds. David Ift in just over 14 seconds with Buddy Baker, and of course the Wood brothers turned in another fantastic pit stop at a little less than 14 seconds.
Earl Canavan coming back on the track now. He broke a couple of lug bolts and has replaced them. He's been out for several laps, but coming back out to race now.
Let's get an update from Joe Alloy, who you just heard from on the attrition list.
Canavan, of course, as we said, has been in the garage area, not retiring his car, has made a repair. Those to retire are James Hilton, who made less than 1 lap with transmission problems. Ricky Rudd, the partner automobile to the James Hilton car, overheating problems. Grant Adcox had a long stay in the garage area with a valve problem. He is now back out on the track. Claude Ballerina went out with a blown engine. Frank Warren had a transmission and rear end problem, and Skip Manning blew an engine. That's the way it looks in the garage area at this time.
Well, the attrition rate thus far, Jackie, has been kind of low this afternoon, despite the fact that the heat here on the drivers and the cars can sometimes be as brutal as any racetrack we go to. Pit stops have been the order of the day, and as Ned Jarrett said a moment ago, I think, Ned, have all the front runners pitted now.
All of the front runners have pitted now, and Barney, you'll have to look out front and see Cale Yarborough with the biggest lead that we've seen today, and it is as a result of that fantastic pit stop that they made of just over 13 seconds. It put him out front, because here, 1 second in the pits means about, 290 feet or so on the racetrack.
Almost 300 feet, and that was almost the difference at Pocono, Pennsylvania last weekend on David Pearson and Darrell Waltrip's hair-raising finish up there. That last pit stop, Waltrip got in and out a couple of seconds quicker, and that made quite a bit of difference. It had kept Pearson chasing him to kind of make up the difference all afternoon.
And here's Dave Marcus coming back into the pits. He was in just 2 or 3 laps ago. Dave currently riding second in the Winston Cup point standings, and hope for a high finish here today to have an Oldsmobile here. This is the first time that Dave has run an Oldsmobile this year. He's back for a change of left side tires. This time they changed the right side just a few laps ago.
When you cover a football field a second and you make up that time on pit road, you get a 2.68 second lead, and that's what Cale Yarborough has right now after that fine effort by the Junior Johnson crew.
Well, Yarborough will have to draft off somebody, because some of the cars back in the pack, 6th, 7th, 4th, and 5th place cars, beginning to link up a little bit in that 2-car draft to try and chase him down. But this is the biggest lead we've had here this afternoon. Let's go to Mike Joy.
3 cars in a bunch that are running for second position. Lenny Pond, David Pearson, and Darrell Waltrip. Then it's a good separation, about 30 car lengths back to Buddy Baker and Donnie Allison fighting for 5th and 6th.
The Alabama International Motor Speedway, we're halfway home and just a lap or so above that right now. 95 laps being indicated on the scoreboard, as the leader continues to be Cale Yarborough. Lenny Pond is second. Waltrip riding in third. David Pearson is fourth. Fifth is Buddy Baker. And Waltrip right now is really drafting on Lenny Pond, and they have broken away a little bit from David Pearson. Back in the number 1 corner, Cale Yarborough swings around lapped cars, and this helps him because every time you pass a car, you can use the drafting effect to kind of boost your speed a little bit, and thus far, he's been able to keep a pretty good, healthy separation on the second-place car. They have not been able to chase him down. They're in the backstretch.
Buddy Baker really making a move. He's in running position number 5 right now. He's been darting in and out of that race traffic, and he's making up some moves trying to catch that second draft.
But Lenny Pond still tries to catch on to Cale Yarborough as Pond runs second.
And David Pearson is the guy who's got to move. Pearson is fourth, and he's running all alone without benefit of the draft. Second and third place cars are linked up, and Yarborough has to back right out of it in heavy traffic. Lenny Pond and Waltrip will close in just a bit.
Cale Yarborough goes to the high side of J.D. McDuffie, tried to steal a little bit of the draft there. He goes to the rear bumper of Dave Marcus to put Marcus another lap down. Into turn one, it is Cale Yarborough going to the outside of the Shoney's Big Boy restaurant car.
Cale moving around nicely. He takes his groove through the turn. Dropping back just a bit, we look to Lenny Pond and Darrell Waltrip. They have their two-car draft. They go high towards the wall. Cale now leading Dave Marcus in that two-car draft down the straight. Lenny Pond makes a move in front of Bill Bowser.
Lenny Pond just split two cars down onto the back of the track, down to the apron almost, back up into the second lane to try to tag on, and he lost some time on that one.
But they are gaining ground on the leader, Cale Yarborough. Side by side. On the bottom, Lenny Pond. On top is Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip trying to hold off Lenny Pond for the second spot.
Well, the quickest car on the racetrack right now would have to be Buddy Baker. He's knocked off 11 cars, and he is coming on through traffic, trying to catch up to David Pearson. And if these two can link up in a draft, they may be able to overhaul the leader. But Baker is flying, and he's by himself. On the Speedway, like a giant rubber band that's been stretched, it's suddenly going back into shape, and the two shapes that are moving up are Lenny Pond and Darrell Waltrip. A moment ago, Cale Yarborough had better than a 2-second advantage over 700 feet. It's dwindled to 1 car length at turn 1.
Out of turn number 2 now. Lenny Pond trying to make a move. He breathes the automobile, tucks himself back in behind Cale Yarborough. Now it's Pond with Waltrip going outside of Yarborough.
Lenny Pond moves right up onto the rear now of Cale Yarborough, and Darrell Waltrip right up behind Pond. They both swept by Dave Marcus's number 2 Oldsmobile to gain the 3 in the number 1 draft.
Front 3 cars now tightly bunched at turn 4. Cale Yarborough, Lenny Pond, Darrell Waltrip. 2 Oldsmobiles and a Chevrolet coming out of turn number 4. Single file heading for the tri-oval.
There's no such thing as breathing room here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. A lot of times you can have a 16, 17-second advantage, and it will evaporate so quickly when the cars link up in a draft to chase you down. That has happened to Cale Yarborough. Meanwhile, back in the pack, Buddy Baker has caught David Pearson for that number 4 spot, and they have linked up in a draft. And Donnie Allison, who's been riding on the tail end of Buddy Baker when Baker came up through traffic so quickly, those three beginning to link up and chase down the front runners.
At these speeds, at almost 200 miles per hour, Barney, you begin to think that maybe they're overdriving their reaction time and that it can't be a thinking man's race anymore, that you have to almost use a gut reaction and use a repertoire of gut reactions to run a race car. I asked Cale Yarborough, I said, can you think about it, or is it simply just the guts here in the Talladega 500?
Well, it takes both. A reaction driver will eventually get in trouble here, and nothing but a thinking driver will eventually get in trouble here. So you got to do both. You got to be a thinker and a reactor to be able to run here for 500 miles and run good.
At Alabama International Motor Speedway, 84 laps remaining in the contest this afternoon. Right now, the leader is Lenny Pond, and not a big surprise for you folks who might be listening around the nation to think that Lenny is up in the lead. He's been optimistic all week. He qualified well, and they have really had the car flying here all week in practice and qualifying. He is the leader. Waltrip is riding second. Third is Cale Yarborough. Bobby Allison, the leader of the Alabama gang, has been having his problems. Let's go for an update on that to Ned Jarrett.
He just came into the pits a few moments ago for an unscheduled pit stop. He had a right rear tire flat. They changed all 4 tires on the car. He was in for 34.5 seconds. Dick Brooks also made an unscheduled pit stop a few laps ago. He changed the right side tires. The Junior Donlevy crew getting him out in a little over 17 seconds on that one.
On the back straightaway, the Darrell Waltrip engine has become unglued. He was going into the turn number 3 area. Bill Bowser had a better look.
He was really puffing smoke, went down to the apron, slowed down a bit, and headed for the pits, and it looked like he popped an engine back here.
Well, also going behind pit wall right now is Bruce Hill, winner of yesterday's ARCA 200. He's pushing the Bearfinder Oldsmobile behind the pit wall and out of the race.
Well, we got a chance. Let's go down on the running order, Barney. We're showing Lenny Pond as your leader, Cale Yarborough second. Moving into third spot is Buddy Baker. Fourth position would be Donnie Allison. Fifth would be David Pearson. Running in the sixth spot would be Benny Parsons. Seventh, Richard Petty. Eighth to Neil Bonnet. Ninth to Bobby Allison. 10th to Dick Brooks, 11th to Cuckoo Marlin, in 12th, Dave Marcus. Al Holbert's car runs in 13th position, 14th to Roger Hamby, 15th to Janet Guthrie, 16th would be Ty Scott, 17th is J.D. McDuffie, 18th is Farrell Harris, 19th is car number 9, Bill Elliott, and in 20th position is car number 96, and that'd be Dale Earnhardt. And the average speed thus far, 175.242 miles per hour.
Well, bad news for the Tennessee racing fans who followed Darrell Waltrip. He won at Pocono, Pennsylvania last Sunday. He will not win at Alabama today. He has just gone to the garage area. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
He coasted into the garage area, so it must be the engine as it was reported, and he's out of it. Here's Neil Bonnett coming in for an unscheduled pit stop too, Barney. I haven't seen any signs as they take the tires off. What we've seen here have looked okay, but they're going to the right side on this car, the Armor All Chevrolet of Neil Bonnett, and he's coming in about 10 laps early. Neil Bonnett is getting out of the car. Someone else will check on it and see who is getting in the car, but Neil Bonnett is out of it.
Well, that's a word from the pits on the Neil Bonnett car. The leader now is Cale Yarborough. He took it away just a moment ago from car number 54, Lenny Pond. Pond has dropped back to second. Moving up to third now is Buddy Baker, and fourth continues to be, looks like Donnie Allison has taken that away from David Pearson, and Pearson now rides in fifth position.
It's Bruce Hill that's getting in the Armor All Chevrolet. They're changing all four tires, a lengthy pit stop for that crew.
Bruce Hill, who won the ARCA 200 here yesterday afternoon and had high hopes for a strong finish in his Bearfinder Oldsmobile this afternoon, but such is not to be.
Getting down with more than half the race completed, who's your vote, Barney Hall, for the Goodies Headache Award thus far?
Going to be hard to say because a lot of people have had problems early in the race, and the race is far from over, and situations can change so quickly. If Buddy Baker has it all go away for him this afternoon, it would certainly have to almost go to him because he has had such great luck at Talladega and he's had such bad luck here.
Barney, let me correct myself. That was not Bruce Hill that got in the Armor All Chevrolet to replace Neil Bonnett. It was Skip Manning. Bruce Hill is here with me right now. They just pushed the Bearfinder Oldsmobile behind the wall. Bruce, what happened?
Rear end housing broke finally. We had a lot of problems. The transmission kept jumping out of gear. And the motor ran hot all day. It was just a bad day all around. Finally, the housing broke, and the left rear wheel was leaning out a little too far. It wouldn't handle too good.
Had a much better day yesterday.
Yeah, I sure did. I was hoping today would be another one like it, but it didn't turn out that way.
Had to be a big thrill for you winning your first Super Speedway.
It was. It wasn't a NASCAR race, but it was still a thrill because it was on a Super Speedway, and that's what I've been waiting for.
Bruce, sorry to see you out of the race. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Dan.
So it's Skip Manning now in the Armor All Dodge Chevrolet number 5.
Well, it could be that the heat is beginning to be a factor on some of the drivers, as Neil Bonnett is in about as good a physical condition as any of the drivers. He's a young, healthy one, and he likes this racetrack. And if he is out of the car, it is because of a physical ailment, that's for sure, as well as he likes to drive here in Alabama. The field is a little bit strung out around the Alabama International Motor Speedway after that last rash of pit stops here a moment ago. The leader continues to be Lenny Pond. Cale Yarborough rides second. Buddy Baker is third. Donnie Allison fourth. And David Pearson in fifth position. Now, the two front runners are linked together in a draft all by themselves. Here they come onto the dogleg portion of the track, just coming back to the start-finish line. And, Jackie, the other cars, that third, fourth, and fifth place car, don't seem to be making any ground on them at all.
Well, in fact, they're losing ground, Barney. As they come to the stripe, we'll get the separation. It begins to lengthen. It's now up to 7 2/10 seconds.
So those two cars that are linked up in the draft beginning to pull away from third, fourth, and fifth place machines here at Alabama International Motor Speedway. The leaders in the backstretch in front of Bill Bowser.
It's Cale Yarborough, and Lenny Pond keeps going outside of Cale down the stretch, but then he'll tuck back in onto the draft as they go into the turn. This time he's not tucking. He's going to take over the lead as they go to Mike George.
Pond's on the bottom of the racetrack. He swings up in the lead, and here comes Cale right back on the bottom of the racetrack. Cale looks slow, thinks better of it, comes back up in the draft. Meanwhile, back at turn number 4, Buddy Baker, Donnie Allison, and David Pearson work some race traffic running 3, 4, and 5.
Challenge for the lead at the start-finish line. Yarborough tries to take it away from Lenny Pond, and it's a dead heat as they cross the stripe and go back into one.
Cale's taking the low way around the race course. Lenny Pond going just a bit higher. Now, midway through turn 1 and 2, Lenny Pond continues to float up high. Now, Cale Yarborough staying down low. They headed down the back straightaway. Lenny Pond tucks back in behind Cale Yarborough. They head to Bill Bowser.
This time, Pond does not move down into the lower slip, but Cale Yarborough runs into a little bit of traffic. Now Pond goes down, but tucks back in. He decides to go up in behind Yarborough, and there's the two, Yarborough and Pond to the middle.
They are single file. Bobby Allison and Dick Brooks of the two Ford Motor Company cars have picked up the draft off the leaders, and 4 cars will be coming to the stripe. Cale Yarborough leading Lenny Pond by but 1 car length.
And we got action in the pits as Baxter Price comes into the pits, attempting to get to his pits. He spins around on pit road. Now he gets it headed the other way and just decides to take it on in the garage area. We have a report on Neil Bonnett that he had a piece of glass in his eye. They have taken him to the track hospital here to get it out, but Neil Bonnett is out of that car and Skip Manning in it. Neil has a piece of glass in his right eye.
Well, the third, fourth, and fifth place cars continue to be Donnie Allison, Buddy Baker, and David Pearson. That's a brand new car that Donnie Allison brought to Talladega this week, and they were a little concerned they might have some problems with it, but thus far, he's in a good shape to win this race this afternoon. Of course, he's the defending champion for the Talladega 500. He has a new car, and Jackie Root talked with him.
Well, I think if you were going to
any place would be a little easier would probably be here. You know, if you went to someplace like Charlotte or something like that, where it takes you a good while to get the chassis worked out. But here, I think that probably be the easiest place for it.
Whatever they did to the car, they did it right, because he's solidly riding right now in third position on the field as they're trying to overhaul the two front runners, Lenny Pond right now and Cale Yarborough. And they continue to open separation on third, fourth, and fifth place cars.
That separation, too, must be a concern for drivers like Donnie Allison. It seems like in the past it's been 3, 4, or 5 cars at the end of a race. And that would mean to me, I would think, Donnie, that you can't afford to let anybody get away.
Yeah, you don't let anybody get away, Jackie. You just got to, you know, maybe in the first pit stop or something, you might let them get way away, you know, if you got a little problem or something. But, you know, from there on, you got to, it's a race. It's not so much endurance now. It's a 500-mile race.
That's the voice of Donnie Allison talking about his chances here this weekend and how he expects to perform in the Talladega 500. Leader Cale Yarborough across the line puts another lap on the board, and Lenny Pond is, for the moment, content to just ride the draft, as they a moment ago were switching that lead back and forth, and that will slow you down. So now they just put it nose to tail, and that's the way they run.
Barney, remember as well the stories that have been emanating for the last week and a half about Darrell Waltrip and the Gatorade team and his supposed potential move to the Win Incorporated team. This rumor that has begun just about 2 weeks ago, and Lenny Pond has been very silent about the whole thing. He just said, well, I'm going to let my car and let myself speak for it on Sunday, and he is indeed doing that this afternoon, planking it right up in the lead draft.
At the Alabama International Motor Speedway, 119 laps are now been completed in today's Talladega 500, 188 laps in the race this afternoon. Cale Yarborough continues to be the man everybody's trying to overhaul, but Buddy Baker back in the field trying to catch him along with Donnie Allison and David Pearson. Lenny Pond is the only car that's latched onto him right now. Pond rides just about a half a car length back at the line.
Barney, that closed course record for 500 miles that Buddy Baker holds at 169.887 set in 1976 could go by the board this afternoon. Average speed thus far, 177.214 miles per hour, despite the 2 caution flags.
The speeds continue to go up, and it looks like Buddy Baker's prediction, which he made earlier in the week, that his record would go by the wayside here today if there were no great amount of caution flags, that the record he set would be broken of about 169 miles an hour plus. And as Jackie Root said, it is up into the 177 mile an hour range, and we had laps earlier today at about 200 miles an hour.
One of the reasons why Buddy Baker is so high about the prospects for the MC Anderson team now versus a couple of weeks ago was the addition of a brand new engine shop. They're now building their own engines, and I said, Buddy, is that one of the reasons why you're smiling so much and so optimistic about this Talladega 500?
That's half of it. Eddie Arcaro can't ride a mule in Kentucky Derby. I'm going to tell you that. You got to have horsepower, and any driver that ever tells you that he did something to make the race car run better, he can hold it straight, but he can't push it. I've seen too many of them try.
Well, Buddy Baker better go to the whip real quick if he wants to close in on your lead tandem team of Cale Yarborough and Lenny Pond. Baker runs third, Donnie Allison is fourth, and in fifth, the sly silver fox, David Pearson.
And Jack Root, another interesting factor about Buddy Baker, he could become the first driver to go over $200,000 in winnings here at Talladega. 6 drivers now over $100,000. Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, the Allison boys, and Buddy Baker. So just maybe a bit of a financial incentive there as well.
Well, at the 110-lap rundown, scoring was indicating there were still 7 cars riding the lead lap, and that 7th place car at that time was Richard Petty.
Let's give you that 120-lap rundown, Barney. The average speed has escalated once again, 178.462.
And a challenge for the lead. Down the back straightaway, Lenny Pond going down underneath. Cale Yarborough zips into first place.
And Yarborough moves down and goes into draft Pond, so he let Pond around him to go into the lead. Pond is happy up there, and he's been running great all day.
Lenny Pond opens up 2 car lengths on Cale Yarborough at turn 3, coming out of 4. He tries to stretch it just a bit. Bobby Allison and Dick Brooks, 2 lap cars, hang with that lead draft, and Cale elects to go to pit road.
Ned, would this be a regular scheduled stop for Yarborough?
Yes, it is a scheduled pit stop, Barney. I would have thought they would have gone 3 or 4 more laps, but Yarborough not taking any chances as hard as he's been running out there. And remember, the first part of this pit stop, he ran under the by himself. And here's Donnie Allison and Buddy Baker coming into the pits, and they almost got together as they came down pit road. Allison had to go out on the grass.
Well, Donnie Allison almost got a piece of Buddy Baker's car as he did indeed get out on the grass, got about half off the pit road, but he is in the pits right now. So part of those front threesome are on pit road.
That'll move Richard Petty into the 4th position, and into the 5th position it would be Benny Parsons, as those two cars are at the tail end of that lap, and they're beginning to move up. Those are your cars. Here are your cars that are on the same lap.
Buddy Baker is down and away. Cale Yarborough is still in the pits. It's a 4-tire change for the Junior Johnson crew in 33.5 seconds. Donnie Allison is going out with Buddy Baker on the pit road, but they only changed the right side tires.
Lead car, Lenny Pond, now pulling on the pit road.
So the leader is on pit road as routine pit stops are taking place in the Talladega 500. Yarborough just in on a lengthy stop for him. And he was the only car that's changed all 4 tires,
yes,
right?
That is correct. And now Pond is taking on left side tires now. David Pearson is in the pits. The Wood brothers go to the right side on the Purelator Mercury. We'll see if Pond is going to change all 4, but apparently not, since they went to the left side first. But he is taking a lot of times, and it's amazing that sometimes it takes longer to change the left side tires. He's down and away now, but it took him 23 seconds. David Pearson is down and away. Pearson was running about
Ned,
5 seconds behind.
there are problems on the STP Dodge of Richard Petty. As he came to the start-finish line, he was almost sideways coming across the flag of Chip Warren.
And down the back straightaway, Jackie. That's Richard Petty pulling it down low. He's well off the pace.
Richard Petty now pulls down onto the apron. Something wrong with the Petty STP Dodge in its final run.
Well, talk about bad luck. If Richard Petty had not had bad luck this year, as the old saying goes, he sure would have had no luck at all. He had great hopes for a strong finish here today, and many drivers in the garage area were predicting that he would have a good shot at winning this race if the brakes went his way.
Well, the crew's out on pit road to direct him in. Maybe he ran out of gas.
Well, he could have cut a tire also or something of that nature, but the car still slowly coming around the speedway, and he will be on pit road shortly. Keep us abreast of what's going on that car, Ned.
I was about to say, before he had his problems, that David Pearson was running about 4 or 5 seconds behind Lenny Pond and Cale Yarborough, and he got in and out of the pits ahead of Lenny Pond. The crew having a little bit of trouble with the number 54 changing the left side tires. Now Petty coasts into the pits. The crew goes to work on it. I'm going to say that he was out of gas.
Well, that would be highly unusual for the Petty crew to let their star driver like that run out of fuel on any racetrack. I don't think I ever remember anywhere, unless they were stretching it to go the distance and gambling, that they have ever let that car run out of fuel.
Petty's been the subject of an awful lot of undue criticism in his winless streak. He's gone since last year at Daytona International Speedway in the Firecracker 400. And a couple of days ago, Barney, you said to him, have you begun to question your operation now that you haven't won in so long?
Again, it's still up to me to do the job, and I've never really question my ability or question the ability of Morris with the engines or Dale with the chassis. It's just that we've just not been able to put it together with what we've got, and we're just going to try something different.
Try something different they will on August 20th in the Champion Spark Plug 400. It will be the STP Chevrolet. But right now, Ned Jarrett, the STP Dodge is back out on the racetrack.
Yes, and they had to push him down pit road, Jackie, and I would say that it is an indication that he did run out of gas, had to coast into the pits. So it was a rather long pit stop, and certainly all the time that he lost coming into the pits, that's going to be costly for him.
Well, that's an unusual mistake for the Petty crew. Well, as the race goes on here at Alabama International Motor Speedway, Lenny Pond begins to look stronger and stronger. He is in the lead. David Pearson is second. They are locked together in a 2-car draft, moving into the trioval portion of the speedway. Here they come to the line. Pearson takes an outside groove this time, and let's see if he's going to put a move on him to get the lead. Pearson moves the Purelator car alongside, goes after the lead in turn 1.
Up the high banking they go. That's David Pearson going the high side. Lenny Pond stays down low. They both take the middle groove through the turn. Still, door handle. Lenny Pond trying to dive it through the turn. David Pearson staying right with him. They go down the back straightaway. They're coming up on the stalled automobile of Al Holbert. He's down low. Now it's David Pearson moving it to Bill Bowser.
Just as they come up on that stalled, number 48 of Al Holbert, Pearson took the lead from car number 54.
The Wood brothers gave him that lead. Remember, Pearson was 5th. He was a quarter lap off the pace, but in and out of the pits quickly, and he leads Lenny Pond coming out of turn number 4. The red and white gold numeral Purelator Mercury of David Pearson at the head of the Talladega 500.
Well, look out. Here comes Buddy Baker. He's caught the lead twosome, and Baker makes it a 3-way battle for the lead. He just swings around Lenny Pond and goes after the leader, David Pearson. They're back in the banking in the south end of the track.
Everybody takes the middle groove through the track. They go around the car of Ronnie Thomas. David Pearson, a couple of car lengths to Buddy Baker, 1 car length back to Lenny Pond. Swinging it through turn number 2. Lenny Pond a bit higher than the others. It's David Pearson. Now Buddy Baker alongside. It's Baker with a challenge for the lead.
Buddy Baker goes down to the inside, and he takes Baker for the lead right behind him. Lenny Pond pulls onto the draft of Baker, and that's the way they head to the north turn in the center.
The Oldsmobiles, trained by the Mercury. It is Baker on the point now. Pond is second. 4 car lengths back to Pearson. Then Donnie Allison as they come out of turn number 4. Single file. Pond takes a peek down low. They go to the tri-oval.
At Alabama International Motor Speedway, one driver just has had trouble up in turn 4.
D.K. Ulrich driving car number 40, a Chevrolet, spun up in turn 3 and 4. He cut a right rear tire, Barney. That sent the car into 3 looping 360-degree spins. The car came down off the self-cleaning banks down to the track apron. He got it under control and at reduced speed came to pit road. There's a little sheet metal damage on the right rear of the car, but otherwise he's all right. He'll fit a new tire and get back in the race, apparently.
At Alabama International Motor Speedway, the front 4 locked together, bumper to bumper, down in turn number 1. Baker is out front. Lenny Pond is second. Donnie Allison is third, and David Pearson is fourth.
Running in the 5th spot would be car number 11, Cale Yarborough. In 6th position, Benny Parsons. In 7th would be the 90 of Dick Brooks. He's 1 lap down. In 8th position would be Bobby Allison's car. And in 9th, Richard Petty. Average speed, 179.429 miles per hour.
Here come the front 4. Back to the line. It is Buddy Baker, Lenny Pond, Donnie Allison, and David Pearson locked together in a tight 4-car
Trouble
track.
at turn number 3. 2 cars up in the wall. They slide down to the banking. 2 cars impacted the wall at turn 3. They've gone down to the track apron, cleaned off the banks, but they're out of our view at the moment.
One of them was Janet Guthrie that went up into the wall and then back onto the apron. Other cars missed the 2 that spun and hit.
Third caution is on the speedway right now as 2 cars have crashed up in turn number 3. Caution is on the speedway.
And the leaders have to go through that turn 3 area to come to the stripe to acknowledge the caution flag. As they go to turn 4, let's go to Mike Joy.
Here they come, Buddy Baker leading them through. They're picking their way through the smoke screen at turn number 3. Baker heads Lenny Pond as they come down to the line, moving by slower cars. Donnie Allison will go 3rd. David Pearson the 4th spot.
Field moves back to the line as the 3rd caution flag has been displayed this afternoon, and we can look for a rash of pit stops again. A report from Bill Bowser again on what happened in turn 3.
They were running close, Jimmy Means and Janet Guthrie, down through the turn number 3. All of a sudden, they got midway in the turn, and it looks like they might have touched, sending them sideways. And, of course, the centrifugal force sends them up against the wall. They went to the wall and then immediately down onto the apron.
Caution is on the speedway and a lot of action on pit road, Ned.
Everybody is coming in. They're taking advantage of this caution period to change all 4 tires. Cale Yarborough, the Junior Johnson crew, had them set up, Jackie, before this caution came out because they did change all 4 tires under the green. They could have gone the rest of the way on their left side tires. The rest of them would have had to change the left side the next time around, and Cale was running them down at speeds of 195 miles an hour, but that strategy has been washed out the window now with this caution flag, so they'll all be back on equal terms with new tires and a full tank of gas. They will have to make one more pit stop after this.
And while we're under this caution period, one of the outstanding Alabama dignitaries that has come to many of the races, in fact, you have driven the pace car here, Cornelia Wallace, who will be running for one of the gubernatorial nominations this year. Your impressions of this particular Talladega 500?
Well, I always enjoy the races here at Talladega. I think this Talladega track is one of the most exciting things we have going on in the state, and I want to thank Bill France and all the people connected with him and the stockholders for having this track in Alabama and for the wonderful way and safe way that they conduct these races. I'm especially glad that we now have a lady driver on the track here at Talladega, and especially proud that I had the privilege of being the first woman to drive a pace car on the NASCAR tracks.
You have always been particularly outspoken about the case of women in sports or women in any type of business. It must feel very good to you to see someone like Janet Guthrie trying to make it big in Winston Cup Grand National Racing.
It really is, and I think Janet's having the same problem that a lot of women have, too, with keeping her sponsors behind her, and I think she's as capable as anyone driving, and I think that there are probably other women that are capable drivers that can be out here and in other fields too. But it's hard to get the confidence of people to sponsor you financially and to stay behind you.
You have always seemed to be genuinely turned on whenever you come to Talladega, Alabama, to see stock car racing Talladega style. What is it, do you think, that really just has caught your eye and has made this one of the most outstanding sports in the state of Alabama?
Well, I think the competition and the personalities of the drivers, and of course, everybody knows a little something about automobiles, and they have favorite brand models of automobiles they like, and I think it's easy for most people to understand, where some sports are a little complicated for them.
Having seen as many Talladega and Winston 500s here, would you care to pick a winner for today's event?
Well, since I'm, running a race myself, I guess this is not a good year for me to be picking favorites. But I have to go with the lady, I guess, if I did.
Well, the action for the lady has been awfully hard in turn number 4. Let's go after we say goodbye to Cornelia Wallace, and thanks so much for staying by. Let's find out a little bit more on the condition of Janet Guthrie in turn 3.
Turn 3, you can't see Janet Guthrie because she's almost to turn 4, and Mike Joy. They went into the spin well through the halfway point on the turn, and both did seem to clip the wall before they went, of course, back down onto the apron. They did stay there, and what's happening down in there is obscured.
We'll confirm that, Bill, that both cars hit the wall pretty heavily. Here is Jimmy Means' car coming by our position on the record, and the left side of that car was pretty well torn up. We see damage to the right side sheet metal. He caught the wall with the right side, just slid along it, and then both cars came right down the 33-degree banking and down onto the track apron. Jimmy was a little slow in getting out of the car. The left front of that car is all banged up, and Jimmy Means is definitely going to be through for the day, it appears, from this angle. Both the drivers, though, are okay, it appears.
You talk about if it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. You have to score that one for Jimmy Means. Remember, every time he seems to come to Talladega, Alabama, in the past he's crashed in practice, and now today he goes down into turn number 3, and he comes
Same
to
place he crashed in practice.
Yeah.
Third caution flag of the day has been displayed to the field here at Alabama International Motor Speedway. 138 laps were completed of the 188-lap race this afternoon. The caution being brought out when Janet Guthrie and Jimmy Means spun and crashed into the wall up in turn 3, and we'll have more on that a little bit later. Right now, let's update you on how they're running after a rash of pit activity, as just about everybody has been in and out at least once, and some of the drivers twice. The leader being indicated as Buddy Baker. Lenny Pond is in second position. Cale Yarborough is third. Donnie Allison fourth. Benny Parsons fifth. And David Pearson should be the sixth-place car, and they are all in the same lap of competition.
Then one lap down would be Dick Brooks, Bobby Allison in 8th, 9th to Richard Petty. Neil Bonnet being shown in the 10th position. That's Skip Manning in the racer. In 11th spot, 2 laps off the pace, is Cuckoo Marlin. 12th, Dave Marcus. Janet Guthrie, who crashed, was running in 13th. Moving into the 13th position would be Farrell Harris. In 14th spot is Ty Scott. In 15th position is J.D. McDuffie. 16th to Bill Elliott. 17th to Dale Earnhardt. Ricky Rudd's car being shown in the 18th position. 19th to Richard Childress. In 20th is Grant Adcox's machine. In 21st would be car number 42. And that would be Marty Robbins' machine. 22nd on the grid would be Buddy Arrington. 23rd would be Dick May's car. 24th to Ronnie Thomas. 25th to D.K. Ulrich. And 26th is the 01 of Earl Canavan.
Jackie, here's the Cully Girl Buick of Janet Guthrie being towed past our position to the entrance of pit road, and rather than a Buick, the car has the dimensions of a Chevette. It's foreshortened at the nose and at the tail. As Janet hit the wall with the right front of the car, and then they came around and clipped it again with the tail end of the machine, and it certainly looks as if she is going to be done for the day.
Well, the car looked like it went right up the banking and almost head on into the wall. From Alabama International Motor Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network.
Still under caution here with 140 laps completed, and it looks like we're going to be back to action here, the drop of the green flag.
Green flag as the Talladega 500 goes back to green. Buddy Baker pulls away from the field and opens up about a 20-car separation on the second-place car, Donnie Allison. They ease off in the number 1 corner with Baker out front.
Buddy Baker with the advantage. Donnie Allison running second. The Benny Parsons car is there. Then the Bobby Allison automobile. The David Pearson machine. They turn it out of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway. It's cars jockeying for position down the back straight. In and out. It's a 7-car choo-choo down the back stretch.
But Buddy Baker stays out front, but now Donnie Allison in the number 1 Hawaiian Tropic automobile pulls down to the inside, and for the first time it looks like Donnie Allison will be out in front. Cale's right behind.
Allison's car leads the race. It is Betty Parsons in second. Buddy Baker is third. Pearson is fourth, and Lenny Pond hammers at Cale Yarborough for the 5th spot, heading for the tri-oval.
While one of the Alabama gang moves out in front, Donnie Allison in the Hawaiian Tropic car, a brand-new machine here at Talladega, leads the field to the stripe. Parsons is second, Baker is third, Pearson is fourth, and Cale Yarborough is 5th, and they are bumper to bumper down in turn 1 again.
That's Buddy Baker making the bold move. Goes way down low on the racetrack. He goes past Benny Parsons, pulls alongside Donnie Allison. It's still Buddy Baker down low, taking the short way around the track. It's Buddy Baker with the advantage. He's side by side now with Donnie Allison. Benny Parsons running third, David Pearson fourth down the stretch.
Baker seems to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, but Lenny Pond's now to the outside of David Pearson, and Buddy Baker is trying hard on the front of the pack, but Allison's still in the lead.
Donnie Allison keeps it up high. Right behind him, they're stacked 2 by 2. Buddy Baker on the bottom with Lenny Pond behind him. The 2 Citicorp Oldsmobiles, Parsons and Yarborough. It's a 5-car wedge heading for the line.
5 cars dicing for the lead, and Donnie Allison does not want to give it up. Baker wants to take it away from him. He falls all the way back to third. Parsons is the second-place car, and those 5 cars sail off in the number 1 turn again.
Buddy Parsons, a car length behind Donnie Allison. That's Cale Yarborough, 1 car length behind Buddy Parsons. Again, down low on the racetrack, running 4th. That's Buddy Baker. Running 5th alongside him is Lenny Pond, then David Pearson. Pearson makes a move, tucks himself in behind Buddy Baker. Cars jockeying for position. They're to Bill Bowser.
It's down to the nitty-gritty now as Cale Yarborough moves to the outside of Donnie Allison, but has to pull back when they hit to the mid-size of the turn. Now Cale Yarborough moves out in front just a little ahead.
A run for the lead on the bottom of the racetrack. Cale Yarborough with Lenny Pond in tow. They're going to go by Donnie Allison coming out of turn 4, and Baker makes it 3 wide right on the apron.
3 deep. Back for that number 2 position. The crowd comes to their feet again this afternoon. It's Yarborough out front. Baker now in second. Lenny Pond is third. 4th is Parsons. 5th right now is Donnie Allison. 6th is David Pearson as they are racing like it is the last lap of the Talladega 500 back in the south end of the track.
We watch the battle for second place. Buddy Baker down low with just a half-car length ahead of Lenny Pond. Leading the pack, it's still Cale Yarborough. Now it's a tie, back-to-back, door handle to door handle between Lenny Pond and Buddy Baker. Baker down low, Pond near the wall.
Lenny Pond and Buddy Baker still door handle to door handle as Cale Yarborough pulls them through the number 3 turn up into the 33-degree banking, and now he has a little better lead.
Cale the leader, but the way Buddy Baker's been working at the bottom of the racetrack, he is going to be one tough customer come the last lap. Out of turn 4, Cale Yarborough, then 2 by 2. It is Buddy Baker underneath Lenny Pond, then Parsons, Donnie Allison, and Pearson.
11 cars are riding the lead draft again. It's Cale out front. But Baker and Lenny Pond door-to-door battling for that number 2 position as they move back into 1. Yarborough has the advantage. Well, 20 minutes ago, it looked like the race had stabilized a little bit between Cale Yarborough and Lenny Pond, and they were pulling away from the field. And all of a sudden, everything changes. There are now 6 cars riding in that lead draft for the lead, and they're all in the same lap of competition. They're just coming up on Mike Joy.
Buddy Baker leads the field out of turn 4. Remember, Baker loves to lead this race. He does not give ground. He's got Cale Yarborough right on his bumper. Benny Parsons, Donnie Allison, Lenny Pond.
One driver that would like to still be out there, but he's not. He's standing by with Joe Alloy in the garage area.
Huntsville, Alabama's Jimmy Means doesn't agree with folks that says Talladega is a place to meet a lady, especially when it's Janet Guthrie.
No, I hit the wall. This is about the 3rd time in a row. We was running real good, and I couldn't hardly run by myself. We was trying to run with Guthrie and the pack she was running with. We could run about 5 or 6 miles an hour faster, but she put a tire, and I was on the outside of nowhere to go.
Now, actually, neither one of you are hurt, but you have just come from the hospital. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got a little dirt in my eye.
How about the car itself?
Well, I know the left side's pretty well tore up, but I didn't see the right side.
And Janet Guthrie's car seems to be pretty well totaled out.
Well, I don't believe it's totaled out. She didn't hit the wall that hard. She hit me.
Jimmy Means from Huntsville, Alabama, in the altercation with Janet Guthrie back to the tower.
Well, it's crashing into the wall here at Talladega at about 180, 90 miles an hour and walking away with only a little dirt in your eye speaks well for the safety features that are built into these Winston Cup racing cars.
With us right now, watching the action as it goes down the backstretch, is Monty Roberts, who's the brand manager for Busch Beer of the Anheuser-Busch Corporation. Monty, you've been involved in racing from the days with Ford, and get your impressions of this event thus far. This is one of the first ones you've been to in a while.
Yeah, Jack, in fact, that's the first time I've ever been to Talladega, and I can't get over it. The cars are running so much faster than I'm used to seeing cars run. They're running as fast as Indy, I think.
Excuse me, Jack Arute, one car has not. Buddy Baker has dropped right out of the lead draft, and he goes some 20 car lengths behind the leader. See if he heads for pit road. He does not. Baker stays on the racetrack. He's way off the pace.
Well, hard luck continues to plague Buddy Baker. He runs so strong here at Daytona and Talladega every time he brings the car out, no matter who he's driving for. And it seems like when Baker has a shot at victory, something goes awry.
Well, something definitely has gone awry, and it looks to be in the engine department. As it came by our vantage point at the start-finish line, he was not only out of the throttle, but the throttle was working hard, just trying to keep going.
A tough break for Buddy Baker.
We just have a report from David Ift in the pits, and they say he does indeed have an engine problem.
Seems like Buddy Baker is never going to get one wired, Monty.
That's right. He always runs out front, and it seems like something always breaks.
The Busch Beer pole position run this year, Ned Jarrett has been filling us in throughout the year on the run, but it really has pumped a new enthusiasm into the qualifying days. Are you people at Busch pleased with the results thus far?
Yeah, we love it. You know, I go back a long way in stock car racing. I'll never forget when Fireball Roberts always set out to win the pole at every race. And I think right here today you're seeing, I think the top 5 cars are all Busch pole winners right now. And this is the place to see where speed really counts.
Recently, you were quoted in many of the media as saying that NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National competition was the best in the world, and you people are involved in all kinds of sports. Can you fill us in a little bit?
Well, we think NASCAR is a wonderful sport. It's really the sport of the South and most of the United States for that matter. One of the reasons we like it very much is the fans are incredibly loyal to the sponsors. The sponsors are incredibly loyal to the fans. I think without the sponsors, you wouldn't see the cars as good as they are. And without the support of the fans, you wouldn't see the sponsors back in the cars. This year, for example, I think we're selling more Busch Beer in the South than we ever have before. And we'd like to thank all of the fans of Grand National Stock Car Racing for their support. And I can tell you we'll be back again next year.
Well, one of the Busch pole winners is resting on pit road, Buddy Baker, who had such a great run here. Let's go to Ned Jarrett for that report.
Well, they've raised the hood. They put it back down now. Buddy is taking his helmet off, so that looks like it's going to be all for the MC Anderson Oldsmobile here this afternoon. He gave it a grand effort, though.
Monty Roberts, thanks for stopping by. Your pick to win the Talladega 500.
Cale Yarborough.
And the competition for the front 5 in the lead has not let up since the race began this afternoon. Donnie Allison has been dicing with Cale Yarborough for the lead. He just took it away from him a moment ago in turn 1, but down the back chute, Yarborough came storming right back, and he is back in front. Jackie Root.
Donnie Allison has been right in the hunt right from the beginning, Barney, and he has some theories on just how a driver stays in the hunt for a Talladega 500.
You got to run the car hard all day. You can't sit there and loaf around. The last 3 or 4 races we've been here has been, a tooth and nail, dog-eat-dog race the whole way, and as a driver, you just can't sit there and ride. It's not as easy as a lot of people make it sound, but, you got to stay right there and the whole time be aware of what you're doing. And, I know the last 3 races here, late in the race, there have been always 3 or 4 or 5 cars out there together, and you just can't relax.
Well, last year in the Talladega 500, Allison came home victorious. Waltrip Relief drove the car the final few laps, and it came down to a showdown among about the same 3 drivers that are up there right now, first, second, and third, which, of course, will be Cale, Donnie, and Benny Parsons. They have opened up a little bit of a lead on David Pearson, the 4th-place car, and Lenny Pond, who is riding 5th.
Gives 6th position to Richard Petty, 1 lap down. 7th to Bobby Allison. Dick Brooks is 8th. 9th is Cuckoo Marlin. 10th is the Neil Bonnet car that's being relief driven this afternoon by Skip Manning. In 12th position is Dave Marcus. Ty Scott is in 13th. Bill Elliott is 14th. 15th to J.D. McDuffie. 16th goes to car number 46. And we're not showing a 46 on our rundown, so we'll have to skip that one. Car number 42 is running in the 17th position. That, of course, Marty Robbins. 18th to Dick May. 19th to Baxter Price. 20th goes to Grant Adcox. 21st to Richard Childress. And the average speed well above the 500-mile record, 172.416.
Well, the 3 Oldsmobiles have now linked up together, and they're continuing to pull away from the 4th-place car, Lenny Pond and David Pearson. There's about a 20-car separation. They're back in turn 1 and 2.
They're taking the middle groove through the turn. Cale Yarborough, then Donnie Allison, then Benny Parsons in that order. Of course, through turns number 1 and 2, there's no particular line. They're just jockeying everywhere they can. The cars have to aim down and dive off the corner, then float back up to the wall, because if you're behind on your steering, you can easily kiss the wall coming out of turn number 2. So they're driving it well. They're driving it cautious, I'm sure, with the lap starting to count down towards 188.
Let's give you car number 96. It runs in 16th position. That's the Cardinal tractor car of Dale Earnhardt, and running 22nd on the field is a newcomer, Steve Moore of Carrollton, Georgia.
And Jackie Root not running anymore is Buddy Baker, who has just come into the garage, and Buddy's been picking a winner. Buddy?
Well, I picked myself today. I thought I had a real good chance. The car was a little bit quicker than anything on the racetrack, especially in the corners, coming up out of the corners, but we dropped the push rod or broke a valve. I don't know which one, but it's the best we've run all year. And I don't know. I just hope that we can get it all going together.
Going into today's race, you probably were in the best spirits ever. Are you still in those spirits and ready to go again?
Well, I'm not quite as cocky as I was because I'm sitting in the garage area, but I don't know. I'm very disappointed right now. I thought
either Cale or I would win the race today. That's the way I saw it. And then to get this close, only 45 laps to go and then have problems. It's a very disappointing day.
A disappointing day for Buddy Baker. Back to the tower.
Does Buddy Baker still have the headset on, Joe?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Buddy, is Cale that strong? Can anybody catch him?
Well, I could. I don't think it. I think Benny Parsons is the sleeper in the crowd right now. He's the only one that could come up and pass Cale and I when we were hooked up with any ease at all. But I think Cale will beat him. I really do, because Cale seems to have the fastest car all the way around the racetrack.
Those are the thoughts of Buddy Baker on who might come home winner this afternoon here in the Talladega 500. David Pearson has lost the draft. Either that or he's having a mechanical problem, but we'd say he's lost the draft because those front four continue to pull away.
Benny Parsons, how can a car that runs in a lead draft all of a sudden just go to the back and end up in the second pack?
A lot of things enter in. In other words, if you're in the front pack and somebody makes a move on you and gets you off the throttle and get you out of there, well, running by yourself, you right away drift on back to the second pack. So there's a lot of reasons that you get back in the second pack, notably a lack of speed. But there is situations that, you back off the throttle and miss a car, or somebody makes a move that looks a little bad, so you back off the throttle, and, pretty soon you're back in the second pack.
Dad, you might have one of your pit runners check with the Wood brothers and see if indeed Pearson is having a problem or if he has just lost the draft. But it appears at this stage of the race he might have just lost the draft on those front fours. They're beginning to pull away. They're in front of Mike Joy.
It's become a four-car race. Right behind Cale Yarborough is Donnie Allison, tucked in tight. Benny Parsons, who Buddy Baker just said was the sleeper of the crowd, and Lenny Pond, who looks for that elusive first Grand National win.
Well, Parsons, who's had a fairly successful year, he's very optimistic about an even better second half in the Winston Cup season. He just continues to ride in the top four. He currently is third. He's just a bumper length back in that third spot of the lead first and second place cars. And, Jackie, he could indeed be a winner here this afternoon because he has it all going for him.
Benny Parsons is one of the few drivers that will say on the radio or to the press members just how important the proper mental attitude is as well, and he's very vociferous about that. In fact, he feels that you have to psych yourself into having a winning attitude in order to win, and all this week he's had that type of
we
winning
got a blown
attitude.
engine on the backstretch. Car number 14, Cuckoo Marlin, Columbia, Tennessee, just blew one about 2,000 feet down.
He was in the pits just 2 laps ago. They had the hood up on the car. Something was wrong with it, and now they're standing in the pits wondering what did happen to that engine. They're just sending back out. Also having pit problems here recently was Dick Brooks. He made 2 unscheduled pit stops. He has an overheating problem. Of course, he's back out in the action and running now.
Race continues under green flag conditions into turn number 1. It is Cale Yarborough leading Donnie Allison and Benny Parsons. They're to the position of Eli Gold. They go beneath Eli Gold down that 4,000-foot backstretch and to Bill Bowser.
And I'll tell you, Cale Yarborough is a man of the hour, but Benny Parsons, no man's fool. He knows where he's sitting, right behind Donnie Allison in the Hawaiian Tropic Oldsmobile number 1. Allison now dips a little bit low, then back up into the draft, midway onto the turn.
Parsons has led this race, but he knows that Donnie Allison is a tough man to get by. And we have 27 laps remaining of this Talladega 500, and it's still anybody's race. Yarborough leads Donnie Allison, Parsons, and Lenny Pond all stacked together.
Well, there will be one more pit stop for all the drivers before it's over here this afternoon, and let's go to Ned Jarrett as to when that pit stop might be coming up.
That should come in the next 8 to 10 laps, Barney, and it'll be interesting to see if they just take on gasoline to run those last 12 to 15 laps, how many ever might be remaining after they make that last pit stop, or if they do change tires. I'll say that most of them will change tires because 15 laps is almost a half of a pit stop, and they want every advantage they can possibly get. The new tires will run faster than those hot tires.
165 laps are complete. Cale Yarborough leads. Donnie Allison is second. Benny Parsons is third. Let's go to Ned Jarrett for a story on David Pearson, who is beginning to really lose ground to the leaders.
The Wood brothers said they just simply ran off and left him. As you reported, he lost the draft. Richard Petty is in the pits right now. They're changing left side tires on the STP Dodge. He's down off the Jackson away, so this will be his final stop.
Marty Robbins also in and out of the pits. They black flagged Marty Robbins a moment ago. What the problem was on the car, we do not know, but he has been in the pits, and here he comes back out. Here comes Petty back out of the Speedway. And, Jackie, the STP Dodge would have had a good shot at victory here today had he not had problems and lost that lap.
There seemed to have been a litany of little problems all year, Barney, that have helped to make the STP Dodge as uncompetitive as it has seemed. He has been up in the front on all the major super speedway events, from Atlanta to Daytona to now Talladega. But as you say, if it weren't for bad luck, Richard Petty'd have no luck at all.
Well, let's hope things turn around for the great driver from Random, North Carolina, when he moves into a Chevrolet.
The engine on the Marty Robbins automobile really starting to puff some smoke as he tried to get back to racing speed. He takes himself down towards the apron on the backstretch.
He shut it down. The smoke stopped, but he shut down and headed for the apron. Robbins apparently having more trouble than he thought.
Here comes the leader, Cale Yarborough, across the stripe. Donnie Allison, 1 car length back. Vinnie Parsons rides third, and the 4th position car right now is Lenny Pond. Well, we've been watching Cale Yarborough since Buddy Baker made a prediction a few minutes ago that Cale would be the man to beat, and he didn't think anybody could catch him. He's been making almost any move on the racetrack he wants. In the turns a moment ago, off turn number 2, he dived all the way from the top groove to the bottom of the speedway and just drove around 3 cars. Let's check with our turn reporters and see if they think he's strong enough to hold off everybody this afternoon. What about it, Eli Gold?
You know, Barney, you were just commenting about that move. Cale really showed so very, very well there, and he did pull away. But an interesting factor, he pulled away with Donnie Allison, but they left Lenny Pond behind. But a couple of laps later, there's Lenny right back up along with the draft again. So he's showing some muscle, running very, very well here today. But you talk about Cale Yarborough, he seems to have it all together.
Cale has it all together, Barney, but I would say this, that Benny Parsons, like was said, is probably the sleeper. He's been sitting there back of Donnie Allison now, and I think that Benny might have a little more than Donnie when it comes down to the wire, and I think it'll be Benny and Cale when it hits a stripe.
Well, usually the moves are made that final lap just coming out of turn 4 and into the trioval. What about it, Mike Joy?
Well, Barney, half an hour ago, I would have said nobody would have beaten Buddy Baker today the way he was running on the bottom of the racetrack. With Baker out, Cale has to be the choice. He's running in front. I think the only thing that'll beat Cale today will be one of those last lap, last turn slingshot moves, and any of the 3 guys right behind him could do it.
I think the pit stops will make the difference, Barney. All of them are going to have to make another pit stop. Depending on how long they're in the pits, that's going to be the big difference. And then we'll know, if, of course, if they come back out with 4 of them running like they are right now, then it could be anybody's race.
Ned, I've always wondered here at Talladega and Daytona, where the draft is so effective and it just makes the difference of winning or losing a race. If you lose it, why, when you have 4 cars running, or 5 or 3 or whatever, like we have here this afternoon, sometimes the leader will peel off and go into the pits, and then they'll pit individually rather than pit together, so you come back out and they're still in the draft. Why do they do that?
Well, they like to go on pit road by themselves to avoid any kind of confrontation on pit road. You know, there's always a possibility that they might get together because they come down pit road as fast as they possibly can, and when they come off of the banking and on to the flat pit road, they're always subject to momentarily lose control or get a little bit sideways, as we see happen a lot of times. And so if there's another car there, well, you know, there's always that possibility of getting together. And then, too, I don't think the crew would look. Yes, Donnie Allison is coming into the pits right now. We'll see what Hoss Ellington and the crew do to that Hawaiian Tropic Oldsmobile as he comes into the pits. It looks like they're only going with gasoline. Yes, they are.
So Donnie Allison becomes the first of the front 4 to stop on a pit road, and as Ned Jarrett reported, he is not changing tires. He is just putting in fuel.
8.5 seconds.
An 8.5-second pit stop on Allison. And was that a wise move not to take on tires, Ned?
Well, I would say so. They really haven't worn tires that much. David Pearson is in the pits right now, and the Wood Brothers Mercury, they too are only taking on gasoline. The tire wear, as I say, hasn't been that great. There could be a difference in speed if one of them should decide to change tires. Pearson was in also in 8.5 seconds, and he's away and running.
Well, here comes David Pearson down pit road as the front 3 began to come up on the start-finish line, and it looks like Pearson may go a lap down. He does, as the front threesome swing by. Yarborough still out front, Benny riding second, and the third-place car is Lenny Pond, and they will be on pit road momentarily. Do you think they'll take tires or just fuel, Ned? Usually if one of the front 2 or 3 just take fuel, it almost forces you to do the same thing.
That's exactly right. I think that they would have no choice now with Donnie Allison only taking on fuel and in 8.5 seconds. You know, if they use up, some of them have made some 13.5, 14-second pit stops here this afternoon, but they can't afford to give up that 5 seconds now.
So we're 174 laps into the event. Jackie Arute.
Barney, a lot of the West Coast fans that are listening to this broadcast will get a chance to see Bobby Allison, David Pearson, Benny Parsons, and Al Holbert as they go in competition on the Winston West Trail next weekend, Sunday, August 13th, at Sears Point International Raceway, and they'll be running along with all the Winston West regulars. On Saturday, August 26th, it's the KSXO also Radio 150 in Anderson, California, Bill Schmidt's home track for Winston West events. Sunday, August 27th, the Coos Bay 100 in Coos Bay, Oregon. My question to you, who gets the Goodies Headache Award today?
Well, it would almost have to go to Buddy Baker, at least from my vote. But before we get into that real quickly, car number 70, J.D. McDuffie, just shut it down coming through the tri-oval. He's on the apron of the track, and I don't believe he is going to be able to make it back to the garage area. J.D. McDuffie from Sanford, North Carolina, in the Bailey excavating car, slowly coasting around the apron of the track in the south end of the Speedway. Back to the Goodies Headache Award. Buddy Baker, I think, would almost have to get the vote of everybody here today. When you have a car that works as well as his car did and drive as hard as he did all day, knowing that you got a shot at victory here and then have it all go up in smoke with about 45 laps to go, that'll give you a headache.
No question about it. I think $200 is not going to be as great as what he was probably tasting the laurels of Victory Lane. Is he and David Ift had won here before when they were teamed with Bud Moore, and they were very confident. I'd have to vote for Buddy Baker as well, although you don't like to give a headache award to anybody, but it'd have to go to Baker today.
Benny Parsons just made a 6.5-second pit stop, taking on enough gasoline to finish the race.
Parsons down pit road across the stripe and goes back into the number one corner, and we are waiting for the Cale Yarborough and Lenny Pond to see when they come on the pit road. And as Ned Jarrett said a moment ago, if one or two of the front 3 or 4 cars takes only fuel, you almost have to do the same thing. You cannot gamble to take on tires because you're automatically a loser if you do.
Cale is pitting, Barney Hall, as Lenny Pond stays on the racetrack an extra lap.
Let's go to Ned Jarrett and see what they do to Cale's car.
And they're only set to add gasoline as he comes into the pits as fast as he possibly can and gets it woed down. They're already there with the gas tank, putting in, some probably 7 or 8 gallons, and he's away in 5 seconds. That's going to be hard to beat.
Well, that is a quick stop for Cale Yarborough. He is not coming up to speed as quickly as he'd like to on pit road. Cale has had more transmission problems on his Oldsmobile and Chevrolet in the last few years than any driver I remember in history. Now he's up to racing speed, pulling back onto the track and moves off into the number one corner. That leaves Lenny Pond, the only car that is yet to pit.
And Lenny Pond has got to be thinking and wondering, he's going to have an awfully fast pit stop. If it was 5 seconds for Cale Yarborough, and he's one of the strongest cars out there, he's going to have to come in, and Herb Knapp's going to have to do some work real quick.
Turn number 2, the number 19 Build an Asphalt Chevrolet. Dick May at the controls, spewing smoke down the back straightaway.
Dick May was picking up smoke on the last lap, but he really left it go this time. Not a complete cloud, but he's streaming smoke. He'll be catching up to J.D. McDuffie, and another car comes down onto the apron.
And there are 10 laps to go. 10 to go here in the Talladega 500. They are showing Lenny Pond as your leader. Mike, will Lenny elect to pit?
Looking for Lenny Pond coming out of turn number 4, up in the banking. Waiting for him to come by and see if he'll hit pit road. He's not here yet. Jackie, talking about the Goodies Headache Award, a strong honorable mention to Janet Guthrie. While Buddy Baker lost the battle, Janet may have lost the war. She's on limited sponsorship. Here's a lady who's done an awful lot for racing just by her presence. She deserves a ride, and she'd be a strong candidate for that award. Lenny Pond comes by. He does not pit this time.
Well, here's the leader, Lenny Pond.
Caution is on the racetrack, Barney. Caution is on the racetrack. What a break for Lenny Pond.
It is going to be one whale of a break for Lenny Pond, and it's going to bunch the field back again as Lenny swings off in the number one corner, and it could be those 2 cars of J.D. McDuffie and the car number 19 a moment ago that was slowly coasting down the backstretch, did not make it to the pits. Dick May's cars also had trouble.
They're both coming to pit road, Barney Hall, around turn 4. A lot of smoke from car number 19, and he does not pit. He stays on the racetrack. McDuffie will coast in.
Well, here comes Dick May. He holds a record of driving more race cars, different race cars, in a Winston Cup Grand National event than any driver in the history of the sport.
A lot of people have asked us just what the record is. It is 5 different race cars in the Delaware 500 in Dover, Delaware. And in that particular day, nobody could keep track of where Dick was. They always wanted to interview him, find out what happened to the car. And he said, I can't. I've got to go get another ride.
Lenny Pond is pitting.
Caution is on the Speedway. 179 laps have been completed in the event. Ned Jarrett, what's this going to do to the race?
They're going to bring him in, and they're set to change tires on most of the cars. Lenny Pond is coming in. They're going to the right side. Of course, he was due to come in for some gasoline. The Junior Johnson crew is set to service Cale as soon as he comes around, and they're set to change tires on that car. And there again, when one of them change tires, the rest of them have to, so that they'll at least be on equal terms.
Well, that's the story on what they'll do in the pits if and when they all come in. David Pearson is still out there. We're looking at Benny Parsons' car as he comes back into the tri-oval here, and Cale Yarborough's machine just passing underneath us. And Jackie Root, how is all this going to end up, you think?
I have to say the sentimental favorite has got to be Lenny Pond, because the victory would be worth more than the winner's share of the purse. It could be some $88,000 in Winner's Circle awards. It would be the first Grand National win for Lenny Pond, and there probably is no more deserving a competitor than the Ettrick, Virginia driver, Lenny Pond. He's had an up-and-down type career, a veteran of late model sportsman competition. I think everybody would be sentimentally pulling for the Win Incorporated team right now.
Well, he is just coming out of the pit road, heading back into the number 1 corner. And talk about driving a race. He has stayed up there all day. He has not stroked it here this afternoon at all. He has dueled with both Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough, and Darrell Waltrip until he had troubles and went out of the race earlier for the lead. He's been no further than about 6th or 7th back all afternoon.
If you had to rate Lenny Pond as a race driver, if you can remember when he first came to Winston Cup competition with the Masters Chevrolet, a lot of the people felt that he showed a lot of the short track experience when he was running on the short tracks, the Martinsvilles, the North Wilkesboros, etc. But when it came to super speedway competition, you could kind of let your voice drop. In the span of the last few years, though, he is as strong a competitor when he has the ride as anybody on competition.
Well, look who's riding right along behind the pace car. I don't think he has been back in. Did David Pearson pit under this caution?
No, he has not pitted. Cale Yarborough is in now. They're changing the right side tires on the First National City Travelers Checks Oldsmobile. Richard Petty is in also for a change of right side tires. Lenny Pond took on all 4. Now Junior Johnson and the crew go to the left side of that car to change all 4. And Benny Parsons is staying out there right now, and so is Donnie Allison, Donnie Allison is in the pits now going out. And it's a little bit surprising that Parsons is staying out there and did not come in to take home tires. These other cars are going to have fresh tires. Well, speaking of Cale Yarborough, you know there's a lot of dedicated people in this sport of auto racing, Barney, and there are a lot of people behind the scenes that works on these crews, and one who's celebrating a birthday here today while her family is having a family reunion back in North Carolina is Gail Connor, who scores for Cale Yarborough at all 30 of the NASCAR Winston Cup races. She said she just couldn't take off to be with the family. She wished she could be, but she's here doing her duty today.
Well, that's a true loyal race fan if you're going to be at all the races, and she is.
Enoch Staley at the wheel of the Pontiac safety car. They're working the north end of the speedway, and it looks like we're going to come down for a drop of the green flag this time around. The pace car going to the position of Mike Joy.
And it's Benny Parsons who leads the field. David Pearson up in the high groove with Bobby Allison, who is a lap down. And then Lenny Pond. Pond is on fresh tires. Parsons and Pearson coming across. Here comes the pace car. Diving to the infield. The field will catch the pace car. And Benny Parsons rolls past as the pace car ducks on pit road. Pearson is second. Here comes Lenny Pond riding third in traffic.
Parsons jumps out ahead of the field as they come to the stripe. It is Benny Parsons in the lead. David Pearson should be the second place car. Lenny Pond is having to pick his way up through traffic. He's trying to move around Bobby Allison. The leaders go down into turn 1.
Lenny Pond goes underneath Bobby Allison. Next he has to set his sights on the Bill Elliott automobile to pass him. Meanwhile, back at the front of the pack, Benny Parsons, David Pearson. Now it is Lenny Pond in the running order going third. They're down the back straight away to Bill Bowser.
Benny Parsons seems the man of the hour as he takes aim for the world's longest grandstands, but right behind is David Pearson in the pure-leaded 21, right on his tail.
The Silver Fox has been on the lead lap all day, and he's right probably where he wants to be in second spot. But here comes Lenny Pond. Fresh tires on the win Oldsmobile number 54 as he comes out of turn number 4, seeking to begin to be the 10th winner in 10 Talladega 500.
Well, for the 500th time today, these race fans come to their feet as 3 cars ride the lead draft right now, trying to pull away from the field. Out front, it is Parsons. Riding second is Pond. Third is David Pearson. They're back in turn 1.
Up the high banks, Benny Parsons. Now it is David Pearson in second. Lenny Pond going third. The Norris Industries automobile going fourth on the running order. Down the back straightaway off the high banks. It's Parsons, Pearson, along with Lenny Pond. They got 2,000 feet to go till they're up on the wall again to Bill Bowser.
Cale Yarborough is going to have to make up some time as well, Bill, because he's about 7 seconds behind that lead draft right now.
Cale Yarborough is way back in the pack, and he didn't get started when the flag was dropped.
Lenny Pond comes for the lead at turn 4. Pond's Oldsmobile, bottom of the racetrack, goes around Benny Parsons as Donnie Allison works up through the field. And David Pearson sits in the 4th spot. They are single file heading for the line.
6 cars in the lead draft, and Lenny Pond, the sentimental favorite here this afternoon. The crowd cheering him on. Crosses the start-finish line, puts another lap on the board. Parsons rides second. Donnie Allison is third. David Pearson is 4th. Single file, they go back in the number 1 turn.
Let's see if anybody makes a move, if they stay this way for the next few laps towards the checkered flag. Lenny Pond, then Benny Parsons, then Donnie Allison's automobile. They go down the back straightaway. Everybody up near the wall. Now they coast towards the middle of the racetrack.
Down into the middle lane, all of them go, being led by Benny Parsons. Lenny Pond is a man, Benny Parsons behind, then the number 1 machine, the Oldsmobile of Donnie Allison. That's the way they choke down into the 33-degree banking.
It seems that every year there's a new record here at Talladega, and we're going to set a couple of them today if Lenny Pond can stay on the point of this 4-car draft. Out of turn 4, it is Pond, Parsons, and Donnie Allison. They are bumper to bumper.
Well, these cars have shown they were almost equal all day long. As Buddy Baker predicted, it would be Cale Yarborough the strongest, but David Pearson, Donnie Allison, Cale Yarborough, and Benny Parsons have been switching back and forth almost with equal ease. Here comes Cale across the stripe, and he is not closing the gap on that front 4. He is still about 5-6 seconds behind the leaders, and we are running out of time. 185 laps on the board. They're moving down the back chute and up in the vicinity of Bill Bowser.
And the draft is not as tight as it has been all day long, but they do tuck in now as Parsons tucks in behind Lenny Pond. Pond, the man of the hour, but Parsons, supposedly the sleeper, will have to wait and see.
4 cars in a bunch, and who's the man with the best last lap repertoire? Pick a car. Donnie Allison, David Pearson. They sit 3 and 4 behind Lenny Pond and Benny Parsons, jumbling through their bag of tricks as we come to the closing laps.
4 cars look like they'll settle it among themselves in the final laps of the Talladega 500. Pond out front, Parsons second, third, still Donnie Allison, and fourth is David Pearson. And Jackie Aruch, you know Cale Yarborough has to be fuming.
Cale had a real problem on that restart, Barney, and it looks like he will not definitely close on this lead pack. It'll be down to 4 cars with less than 2 laps to go.
They're in turn 2.
It's an eerie feeling, waiting for a move. Lenny Pond goes inside, now drifts back in front of the pack. No change of position to Bill Bowser.
They stay single file with Lenny Pond on the lead, Benny Parsons, Donnie Allison, and then David Pearson.
200-mile-an-hour chest, and they're coming down to the final moves. This one is just about over. It is still Lenny Pond. Parsons content for the moment, and a piece flies off of Ronnie Thomas's car. The leaders going over some metal, and they head for the line. Smoke coming out of Benny Parsons' car now.
Down to the line, white flag for Lenny Pond, the leader, and falling off the pace is David Pearson. They swing back into the number 1 corner. Victory lap for somebody. Who will it be? Lenny Pond opens about 4 car lengths now on Donnie Allison.
This is the key for Lenny Pond. He's got to stand on it. Takes the middle groove through turns 1 and 2. Comes off the 33-degree banks down the 4,000-foot straightaway. Lenny Pond standing. Here comes Donnie Allison. Makes a move. Goes to the inside. Bill Bowser has it.
Allison doesn't have it as Pond puts the pedal to the metal, and Pond is pulling away from him by 3 laps, though. Allison moves up on the back of him and could slingshot any time.
Parsons way back to 4th. He caught a tire on a piece of debris. It is Lenny Pond. Donnie Allison closes in. 3 car lengths, 2 car lengths out of turn 4. They head for the finish.
Who will it be? Donnie Allison or Lenny Pond? They're in the tri-oval. They are 900 yards, and it looked like a piece of something came off the car. Lenny Pond will win the Talladega 500 by 2 car lengths at the start-finish line over Donnie Allison. David Pearson will finish 3rd, Benny Parsons 4th, and Cale Yarborough will finish in 5th position.
The 1978 Talladega 500 is history. The winner is Lenny Pond.
It is one happy gentleman from Ettrick, Virginia, Lenny Pond, who has won here today the Talladega 500, his first super speedway victory. And let's go to
Joe Alloy. I think he has 2nd place standing by. As we wait for Lenny Pond to make his way, a new record speed, Barney Hall, and this will be a world closed course record. The average speed, 174.700. That eclipses Buddy Baker's 1976 effort of 169.887. Lenny Pond, his first career victory. His best finish before today was 2nd 5 times. His biggest purse in 1976 when he won $16,890 in the Daytona 500. Lenny Pond making his way now into the Victory Lane area a first time, and that's got to really be a thrill for a driver to go to Victory Lane for the first time, and especially in a race like the Talladega 500. They've done it. The people at Talladega hold the record all by themselves, 10 years of racing and 10 different winners. Boy, this place is competition with a capital C.
That is for sure, and I don't think there's anybody here that wasn't pulling for Lenny Pond those last few laps, because he has struggled so long to put it all together with this new racing team this year, and he felt like he should have won a race even before now, and he's in Victory Lane this afternoon.
And remember, the victory is worth that Winner's Circle program as well. Should Lenny Pond elect to run all of the races, the Winner's Circle money would be in his side of the ledger, and that would be worth some $80,000 to $90,000 over the period of a year.
Well, Jackie, I'm with him here right now. I'll tell you, this is one happy scene in Victory Lane. Lenny, congratulations on setting a new world record, man. When you won your race, you won in fine fashion.
Man, it was a long time coming. I feel like when I started the race today, I had the whole world against me. I just feel like, feel real good I won the race. And I got to talk to a whole lot of people after the race and get a few things straight. But I'd like to thank Goodyear and Union 76 and Champion and all this extra conduct, and especially Harry Neal and Ron L. on my columnists. I know Ron is at home and he'd like to be in there, but we'll be there tomorrow with him.
You prove one thing, you can drive this race car.
Well, I think a lot of people need to see it today, the way they've been talking lately.
Well, he did a real fine job. Lenny Pond, of course, hot and humid here this afternoon and worn out, but he came through in fine fashion.
That's the happiest race driver I think we've heard in Victory Lane in a long, long time, and well, he should be, because he deserved to win here this afternoon. Lenny Pond.
Barney, we can interrupt you and tell you maybe what happened on that last lap. We just talked to Donnie Allison. He is so exhausted he crawled out on one of the wooden workbenches. He's lying down now. He says it feels like air conditioning is so cool on the workbench. He says that Benny cut down a tire on that last lap. A piece of the tire flew up and hit him in the windshield, momentarily distracted him, and then he could not catch Lenny. He said Lenny then got away from him. He said there was nothing to do. He said glass went everywhere. So that's what happened on the last lap, and Donnie said he's sorry he didn't win. He's now going to the shower. We're not going to be able to get him onto the microphone. Back to the tower.
Okay, that's the story on Donnie Allison. It looked as though something flew off the car, but it was a piece of debris that came up. Quickly, let's give you the top five to eliminate any confusion. The latest thing from scoring is now Pond the winner, Donnie Allison finishing second, Benny Parsons finished third, Cale Yarborough fourth, and David Pearson fifth.
They were showing David Pearson a lap down on the final rundown. The average speed, a new world's record, as we said, 174.700 miles per hour.
Well, it's all over here at Alabama International Motor Speedway, and Jackie Root, it's another one of those finishes that this just not decided at Talladega until the last lap, and it's not decided normally until the last 50 yards from the start-finish line. But today, I think everybody here was pulling for Lenny Pond.
This particular race is beginning to get the reputation, too, as a catapult in careers for drivers. Richard Brickhouse won the first race. Pete Hamilton, the tow-haired youngster from New England, came home victorious in 1970. Bobby Allison, who was trying to make a comeback in 71, did so. James Hilton, the surprise winner in 72. Dick Brooks, who can forget his ride in Jimmy Crawford's Dodge in 73 that gave him the victory. Richard Petty, who won in 1974, went on to win his fifth, unprecedented at that time, fifth national title. Buddy Baker in 1975, Dave Marcus in the K&K win in 76, Donnie Allison and Hoss Ellington teaming up last year in 77, and the Rainier effort with Lenny Pond at the keyboard today, and you could almost tell that Lenny was pretty well choked up about the win. The victory was something else today at Alabama International Motor Speedway.
Well, a new world speed record for a 500-mile stock car race here at Talladega. He took the record away from Buddy Baker. And again, we'd like to urge the listeners around the United States and all over the world, sometime, some place, you got to come here to Talladega and see a race on this speedway. I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but Buddy Baker did receive the Goodies Headache Award, and he deserved it.
No question about it, Barney.
This is Barney Hall and Jackie Root saying so long from the Alabama International Motor Speedway.
From Talladega, Alabama, this has been the Motor Racing Network broadcast of the Talladega 500 NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National Stock Car Race. The chief engineer for today's broadcast was Harry Howard, Director of Station Relations Kristen Frost, Executive Assistant Mary Norman, Director Hardy Smith. This broadcast was produced by Jack Arute. All personnel are employees of or paid by the Motor Racing Network. Stay tuned to most of these same stations for the broadcast of the Champion Spark Plug 400 from Michigan International Speedway on Sunday, August 20th. This broadcast was a presentation of the Motor Racing Network, a division of International Speedway Corporation.